the Cardcaptor Wizard of Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 The Journey to Egypt ends. After some struggle, everyone wrote their own answers. The 5 hands came together holding their own answer sheets. On it was the same answer river written in different handwritings. A river can run but never walk, has a mouth but never speaks, has a source but never sheds tears, has a riverbed but never sleeps. Correct. Answer, Mayoden. Nodded excitedly. Do you want to continue guessing? Uther glanced at the roommates who were all very interested and said to Hairball, come up with a question. After 1 year at Hogwarts, I just took this opportunity to spend some time with him. Moreover, Hairball is also the only Sphinx he can guarantee will not attack them if they answer the riddle incorrectly. Some people try to hide, some people try to deceive, but time will reveal everything and we will always meet. It can be seen that Hairball seems to have accumulated a lot of riddles, and there is almost no hesitation when telling new riddles. Guess my name as best you can, and when I do have you, I guarantee you'll know the answer. After some guessing, Cologne didn't get the answer right this time. The answer is death, and Cologne's answer is the end-of-year exam paper. Some people try to hide, some people try to deceive, but time will reveal everything, and we will always meet. I think this answer seems to be okay. Bernard held his forehead and smiled bitterly, but Cologne, you clearly did well in the exam. Doing well on the test doesn't mean I like the test. Cologne was right. The Hairball struggled for a while, and had to admit that for the students of Hogwarts, the answer did fit the riddle. He reluctantly decided that Cologne had answered it correctly. It seems that this is still an enlightened Sphinx, which Adam would like to call an enlightened beast. An enlightened beast located in Kunlun-Su, China. X9. Everyone then guessed a few more riddles, and although the answers they gave were sometimes inconsistent with Mayoden's, after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that there was nothing wrong with Mayoden. So in the end, until they said goodbye to Mao Tuan, all 5 of them answered correctly, and Mao Tuan waved goodbye to them in high spirits. Actually, there's nothing particularly interesting inside the pyramid. Entering the main body of the pyramid, while introducing, Uther took out lighting tools from his bag and distributed them to everyone. The only things that are more valuable to us are the words and statues on the walls, but you can't understand them. Let me translate them for you. Wow, Uther, you are really amazing, knowing so many languages. Couldn't help but sigh. Although Uther and his family communicate in English most of the time, they still use Arabic occasionally, and now the walls are written in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Ahem, it's actually not bad. The darkest skin color among the 5 could not hide the blush on his cheeks. Uther translated the inscriptions on the walls and explained the stories behind the statues. Some of them praised the achievements of the pharaoh when he was still alive, and some wished the pharaoh a smooth resurrection. The parts about the achievements were in the wizard's version, so Adam also felt eye-opening. It is worth mentioning that in order to express respect for the gods and pharaohs, the biggest requirement for the overall hieroglyphics is to be beautiful and symmetrical. For this reason, it can be written vertically or horizontally, from left to right or from right to left. Specifically, look at the lines between the words and the orientation of those animals' heads. This made everyone sigh. It's almost like painting. In that era, only those who mastered writing could have access to the mysteries of knowledge, and those who mastered the hieroglyphics mastered the most profound knowledge, magic. Uther stroked a hieroglyph on the wall, sighing at the ancient past, and suddenly seemed to touch something. What's this? Uther took a closer look and saw that it was the Eye of Horus, which represented Pharaoh in this passage. The Eye of Horus didn't look abnormal at all. With doubts, Uther stretched out his hand again and gently placed it on the Eye of Horus. Sure enough, I felt the bump again. After confirming, Uther retracted his hand decisively. How could there be such an abnormal protrusion in the inscriptions of the pyramid, and also on the Eye of Horus, which symbolizes the divine and the pharaoh? Not to mention that this seems to have been deliberately hidden. Uther remembered that this pyramid was not built to welcome future generations to visit, so he might as well go back and ask his father. Everyone has seen it, right? Let's go back. There was really nothing new about the rest, and everyone nodded in response. Back at the villa in Cairo, Uther said that he had prepared Egyptian-style clothing for everyone, that is, the karassilis he was wearing, so that everyone could change into it. In the evening, His parents would come back early and everyone would go boating on the Nile River together unexpectedly. Under the guidance of Uther's servants, everyone changed into Colossiers and came out, but Uther still made them wait for a while. When he came down from the second floor, Uther was immediately surrounded by Adam and the others. Wow! No wonder it took you so long. I didn't expect to change into such beautiful clothes. Bernard used his fingers to hook Uther's belt, which was studded with turquoise and other precious stones, and dragged him forward. Cologne pushed his back from behind. After this change, we look like your followers. Okay, brothers, and you are connected heart to heart, and you are playing tricks with your brothers. Adam stretched out his hand and summoned the dark staff. The spikes of the sun and the gems on Uther's body sparkled together in the sun. I hope you can give us a reasonable explanation, otherwise you may have to go on the boat trip tonight naked. At most, I will leave you a pair of underwear. Eugene added. Didn't you say you wanted to see me wearing Egyptian clothes? Uther quickly complained and opened his hands to show his clothes with golden patterns and various gems. Only my father and I can wear this in Egypt. Isn't it special enough? So, this is your last words, right? Adam slashed him. Bernard and Eugene lifted Uther up, and Adam raised the dark staff as if he was about to chop him. After a lot of pranks, Uther finally changed into the same clothes as everyone else when he went boating on the Nile with everyone else. After all, although Adam and others didn't dare to do anything in Egypt, they had to go back to Hogwarts after school started. These people might really be able to strip him down to his underwear. After spending 4 days in Cairo and 7 days in Thebes, Adam and his friends spent less than a day in other cities. They played for nearly a month before saying goodbye to Uther. Before leaving, Uther gave each of them a roll of papyrus with something written in hieroglyphics, which Adam and his friends could not understand. This is a blessing from Amun-Ra. Ra and Amun were the main gods of the Heliopolis, Ennead and Thebes octagonal gods, respectively, and later the two merged into one. So this roll of papyrus should be a friendship letter of some diplomatic nature. I look forward to tasting the taste of my hometown in Hogwarts. Before leaving, Uther could not help but remind him, no problem. After saying goodbye to Uther, everyone set off on the return journey. Chapter 52, Nicholas Flamel and number 039, S Secret Vault. After returning home to London and seeing the letter from Hogwarts, Adam remembered that he still had new textbooks to buy this year. Although Adam had almost completed Flourish and Blott's bookstore before, he couldn't stand the fact that Gilderoy Lockhart had released a new book this year. Yes, Adam had bought several of his old works after all. Although this guy has no other skills except the forgetting curse, the experiences he stole are genuine and have certain reference value. In addition, I have to admit that Lockhart's writing style is also very good, and his ability to write real adventures in a fascinating way is also a good thing. It is also good to read his few works just as novels. When you go to Diagon Alley, let's take a look at the vault left by Nico Flamel. Thinking of Nico Flamel, Adam couldn't help but feel a little depressed, and put aside the book list from Hogwarts. Is there any other letter? When he opened it, he found that it was from Harry. Adam had sent Harry a letter before to confirm which Snowy Owl restaurant Ares was interested in. Harry couldn't reply because the window was sealed with iron bars, and was later taken to the Weasley house before he could send the letter. But Adam was already in Egypt at that time. Fortunately, there was nothing important in the letter. I just wrote that I was very happy to receive Adam's letter and explained why there was no reply. In addition, I also wrote a series of very excited exclamations about how magical the wizard family is. Hedwig should be doing well now, you can rest assured. Adam nodded towards Ares. Ares waved his wings, still looking indignant after finishing the trip without any trouble. His grandfather, who was a little tired, and his grandmother, who was still grieving. Adam came to Diagon Alley alone. After hesitating for a while, he decided to go to Flourish and Blott's bookstore first. It shouldn't take too long to buy a book. Then he regretted it. Gilderoy Lockhart autobiography for sale with autographs. Magic Me Today 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. Looking at the banner in front of him, Adam paused and silently planned to turn around and head to Gringotts to buy books after the book signing. Adam paused in his steps and turned his head in surprise. Cologne, said something to the people around him, and then ran all the way to Adam. What a coincidence. Are you here to buy new textbooks for the semester too? Yeah, but it looks like there are too many people here. I plan to go shopping elsewhere first and come back after the autograph session is over. That's it. I really envy you. Your parents must have never read Lockhart's books, and your grandparents probably won't like Lockhart either, Side, my mother likes him very much. I have to wait in line for who knows how long to get Lockhart's autograph from her, U003EU003C, so pathetic. There's nothing you can do about it. After all, it's your mother. Just wait. Under Cologne's disbelieving gaze, Adam sighed. I'm not interested in this kind of woman killer, so I'll leave now and say goodbye. After saying that, Adam turned around and ran away, turning a deaf ear to Cologne's cry of blood behind him. Take me to secret vault number 4. The goblin, who was immersed in dealing with the things at hand, was stunned when he heard Adam's words, and raised his head to look at Adam. Adam stood in front of the goblin and let him look at him. A gemstone was suspended on the top of the dark staff in his hand, shining brightly. Key. Although they have never met the other party and there is no information about this person in Gringotts, for non-private secret vaults, Gringotts only recognizes the key and not the person. As long as they can produce the corresponding secret vault key, they will not delve into the details behind its story. Adam took out the key and handed it to the goblin, who checked it and returned the key to Adam. Please come with me. Jumping down from the high stool, the goblin's tone was obviously filled with respect. Each single-digit secret vault represented astonishing wealth and status, and even Gringotts did not dare to treat it casually. Riding Gringotts' minecart, they passed through magical protections, passed through the anti-thief waterfall, and arrived at an unknown depth underground. Adam and the goblin stopped in front of a gate. Please give me the key. The goblin hung the lantern on the hook beside the door, inserted the key with one hand, and tapped the door with the other hand, twisting the key in his hand from time to time, accompanied by the sound of countless machines turning. The door of secret vault number 4 slowly opened towards Adam. I'll wait for you at the door. Returning the key to Adam, the goblin bowed and retreated behind the door to a position where he could not see the situation inside the secret vault. Adam stepped into the secret vault and looked around. Indeed, as Nicholas Flamel said, there are no coins in it, and about half of it is his manuscripts. But Nicholas Flamel never said that this secret vault is so big. Adam picked up one of the single-page manuscripts. One side was written with complex alchemical formulas and diagrams, and the other side used colorful paint to draw the process of Phoenix's nirvana. Moreover, this phoenix seemed very familiar to Adam. The more he looked at it, the more it looked like it. Fox putting down the manuscripts, Adam took a quick inventory. Some of these manuscripts were bound together, and some were just single pages like the manuscript. Specifically, he would wait until the next time he came to move these things away and then sort them out slowly. And Nicholas Flamel's collection opened Adam's eyes. He glanced at it casually and saw something that looked very familiar to him. There's even a pensieve, touching the stone basin that looked very similar to the one in the principal's office. Adam didn't know whether Nicholas Flamel made it himself or where he got it from. In addition, there are many things from the Muggle world, such as dresses, armor, swords, golden cups, scepters. These things have no magic power, and perhaps they are collected here because they have some kind of commemorative significance to Nicholas Flamel. The most in Nicholas Flamel's collection are books, most of which are related to alchemy, and there are all kinds of texts. In addition, there are many books on mysticism. Adam even found several Bibles in the pile of books with the idea that the church might really have something in this world. Adam opened the Bibles, and then embarrassedly found that although he couldn't understand the words on them, he could clearly see that the contents of several Bibles seemed to be different. In the end, Adam selected a few things to take away today, and the rest would be sorted out slowly later. The first one is a set of swords and shields made of fairy mithril. Adam thinks they are really cool and suitable for the sword and shield in the Clow Cards, so he spent some time on the spot to cast a sealing magic on the set of swords and shields, so that he can summon them at any time in the future. What? The Dark Wand can also be directly transformed into a sword with the magic of the sword card, and the shield can be cast without a real shield, but the gems and patterns on this set of swords and shields are really special. Cool. The second one is a shorthand feather pen, which is Nicholas Flamel's alchemical creation. It can record and even draw the owner's thoughts and ideas in real time, and it is exactly the same as what the owner thinks, and even the color can be adjusted at will. Nicholas Flamel's manuscript was completed with a shorthand feather pen. It can perfectly help Adam free his hands when doing homework and do more meaningful things, such as touching ZIOK and SPI. The last one is a book that seems to be notes of Nicholas Flamel when he was studying ancient scripts that are said to have mysterious powers, including Nordic runes. Egyptian hieroglyphics, Chinese cloud seal characters, etc. Adam thinks he can study it in his spare time. The only problem is that the main body of this notebook is in French, and he still needs to spend some time learning it. Chapter 53: The Regret of Missing the Soul Testing Instrument. After coming out of Gringotts and standing at the door of Flourish and Blotts, which was still crowded, Adam remembered that he should stay in Gringotts for a while longer. He was so dazzled by the treasures in the secret vault that he even forgot that there was a liar here who was trying to cheat him out of money. Fortunately, there were fewer people in the bookstore at this time, so at least it didn't delay his normal purchase of books. Just as Adam took a new textbook and was checking out, a figure jumped out from the darkness. Cologne, you haven't left yet. Adam was not surprised at all when Cologne grabbed his shoulder. If he hadn't noticed that Cologne had been bounced out by the shield at this time, of course not. My mother is still queuing over there. Auntie is still queuing. Yes, those who have signed in now are those who have been queuing here since early in the morning. This, Adam had a clearer understanding of Lockhart's popularity. Adam, why did you only buy one? I've already bought the other books. Cologne was surprised. You actually like Lockhart, too? The plots in his books are still very exciting. Then, I have some good news. Do you want to know? Good news? Adam raised his eyebrows. Did your Niffler give birth? Oh, not yet. It will take a few months. Don't worry. No, not this. It's good news about Lockhart. Oh, Adam's tone was a little disappointed. What is that? Lockhart is the professor of our next Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Oh, seeing Adam's reaction, Cologne was a little disappointed. What? You really don't seem to have any interest in Lockhart. Do you want to hear the gossip that happened here before? Gossip? Tell me in detail. Before, in this bookstore, the twins' father and old Malfoy had a fight. Oh, Adam widened his eyes slightly. He actually guessed it when he saw the banner, but it was not such a coincidence. He didn't expect it to be today. It's a pity that he missed the opportunity to see the Horcrux up close. He actually had a doubt. What would happen if the magic of directly changing matter like the gum card was used on the Horcrux? Would Voldemort's soul turn into sweets? Or what kind of effect would other Clow cards have on the Horcrux? Can the counter curse of the Horcrux be analyzed? And so on and so forth. The diary Horcrux should be in Ginny's hands now, and it also indicates that there will be an uncontrollable danger in Hogwarts next. The Basilisk, unlike Professor Quirrell in the first year and the challenge under the trapdoor on the 4th floor, as long as you hide and walk, you will basically not encounter danger. In the 2nd year, the Basilisk will swim along the drainage pipes of the entire castle. Adam can't guarantee that anyone will not encounter the Basilisk or that a place will be safe. If he hadn't gotten the Clow cards, Adam should have considered dropping out of school, but now, Adam couldn't help but start thinking about whether killing the Basilisk in advance would lead to something uncontrollable. Professor Dumbledore is still strong and healthy, so there shouldn't be any problem, right? Hiss. Thinking about it, if I catch the Basilisk in advance, there won't be any problem, right? You know, the Basilisk is not a magical animal born through normal reproduction. In this era, there may be only one Basilisk left in the world. Senior Newt, who has seen a lot, may not have seen this, doesn't it sound exciting? And they both just swung their fists and fought. They even knocked down a few bookshelves. It's really exciting. Adam sighed, regretting that he wasn't there at the time. If he got the diary, many things would be more controllable. Speaking of Malfoy, Draco and his followers are also frequent customers of his store. After all, Draco is rich and his followers are greedy. In the novel, this guy is a complete bad guy, and he was forced to reform in the end. However, the movie may be considered to be aimed at children, and the influence of the movie is greater than the novel, or perhaps the actor's appearance brought popularity to this character, so the plot of this character was finally changed a little. For example, when assassinating Dumbledore, Draco in the novel simply did not have the ability, but in the movie, his inner struggle was shown. In short, Adam's impression of him was not too bad, especially when he opened a restaurant in the future. These vain nobles could often charge a large amount of money by providing them with some additional services that had no practical significance and value. After paying the bill quickly, Adam was about to go back, but was pulled by Cologne and refused to leave. It's really boring here. Come chat with me, I'll treat you to ice cream. Helplessly, Adam had to stay with Cologne in Flourish and Blotts for a while, and then the two of them ate a bowl of ice cream sprinkled with crushed nuts before saying goodbye and leaving. Maybe the grocery store can also sell ice cream and other frozen products. On the way back, Adam thought so. After that day, time seemed to be controlled by the time card and flew forward rapidly. When Adam buried his head in the belly of SPI, it seemed like it was still the last second, but when he raised his head, school was about to start. Oh, I can still pet cats after I go to Hogwarts. That's fine. After declining the idea of his grandparents coming here to send Adam to school, Adam took Mr. Reed's cart to King's Cross Station. Adam, study hard in school and your business will be prosperous. Mr. Reed joked before getting off the car. Because of Adam, Mr. Reed and Ms. Lee were a little busy some time ago. Many people in strange clothes came to their store. They were very skilled in ordering food, but many of the dishes they ordered were not available in their store, and they didn't know how to record and file taxes for the money they paid. In the end, after some inquiries, the two learned that their son's business was booming in school. You are worthy of being my child. In addition to being proud, Ms. Lee was also a little worried about whether her son's business in school was not good. It's not that she is worried about academic performance. If she really wants to focus on this, then Adam's transcript with all O's will be enough to dispel her concerns. Mainly, in the process of doing business, there are too many conflicts of interest, such as purchasing, pricing, publicity, competition, etc., which inevitably make the business itself tainted with some things that she does not want her son to be exposed to too early, even though her son will be exposed to these things sooner or later. Although Ms. Lee does not like studying, she has to admit that the time in school is the cleanest and purest time in her life. She does not want her son to lose this experience that he will never have the chance to make up for once he misses it. Relatively speaking, Mr. Reed is much more optimistic. Anyway, it has come to this, and his son's business is still doing well, so let's continue to do it. Who can say that a simple campus life is definitely better? Chapter 54. A small incident on the way to school. Before the express departed, a group of little badgers who had never met during the holidays quickly gathered around Adam, and everyone shared their holiday experiences. Adam, why aren't there many food items available in your restaurant? This is probably the question that Adam is asked the most. In this regard, Adam can only explain that those are the specialties of his place. Don't ask, just say whether they are delicious or not. The little badgers who have taken their families to experience it, it is indeed delicious. Adam didn't open the store because he couldn't perform magic at home and didn't prepare products, so everyone dispersed after the express departed. Adam and his friends also found a private room in the dormitory to have a small meeting. Brothers, I thought about it carefully after I went back, and we really didn't pick the right time last time, Bernard whispered. This time we will go at night. The five of us will hold lanterns together and look for the footprints of the moon crazy beast under the moonlight. It will definitely be very atmospheric, aren't you afraid that we will step into the acromantralist territory again under the moonlight? Cologne looked troubled. He didn't want to experience the feeling of disturbing the acromantrala again, didn't we already know where the acromantrala's nest was last time? This time we just need to hide. Bernard touched his chin and said, and we had no experience last time. I thought about it after I went back. When we didn't find any traces of magical animals along the way, we should have realized that something was wrong in that direction. That's right. Besides, we didn't see any of these animals like unicorns, centaurs, and moon crazy beasts last time. Don't you feel regretful? Bernard stretched out his hands to both sides. If it really doesn't work, you still have these legs to hug, and do you have a broomstick? Just run away if you can't beat us. The three people who were hugged by the shoulders looked at each other and nodded. Well, Cologne thought for a while, forget about unicorns and moon crazy beasts. Even he had never seen such magical animals as centaurs. As for the safety issue, Bernard seems to have a point. Okay. Let's go see it sometime. What are you going to see? The carriage door was suddenly opened, revealing the curious faces of the twins. Go check out the kitchen. Adam conjured up a table of desserts smoothly. What's the matter? What do you want from me? Haha. We knew it. Adam, you definitely have some in stock for yourself. The twins each reached out unceremoniously, grabbed a piece of candy and threw it into their mouths. Nothing, we just came over to take a look. By the way, I want to ask about my business plan after school starts. During this holiday, the book list sent from Hogwarts made the Weasley family even worse. Although Mrs. Molly likes Lockhart, it obviously does not make Lockhart's books cheap. Every child who is still studying at Hogwarts must buy 7 copies, not to mention the youngest this year. Ginny has to go to school, which is a big burden on the Weasley family's financial situation at this time. The twins enjoyed an extraordinary sense of accomplishment when they were able to spend a sum of money so that Ginny did not have to buy second-hand goods and the family's expenses did not have to be reduced as for the small question of being questioned by Mrs. Molly about what they were doing if they didn't study hard at school. The twins, who received admiring looks from their younger sister, expressed their gratitude. Adam thought for a moment. Let's put it on the afternoon of the first Saturday. By the way, I also plan to put the first new product experience on that day. The weather is so hot, I think I can make some ice cream to eat. Last year when Adam's shop was built, the weather had turned cold. When it turned hot again, it was the review stage before the exam. Adam never thought of serving ice cream, so he ate ice cream in Diagon Alley during the holidays. Just remembered after the twins left, Adam thought the rest of the journey would be uneventful. Have you, the British wizarding community, already started researching flying cars? Uther looked out the window, his expression confused and a bit dreamy, as if he was questioning whether he was awake. Adam, who was using a cat stick with a candy on the top to play with, was stunned when he heard this, and turned to look out a window. What caught his eye was a Ford car shaking outside the window, to be precise, in the air outside the window. It drove unsteadily, barely keeping the same direction as the express train. Wow! That's so cool. Bernard's eyes lit up. Why aren't there flying cars sold in Diagon Alley? I think that kind of thing is probably not for sale, because it is most likely illegal, Eugene said silently. There are two people in a dormitory who have just been exposed to the wizarding world. One is an Egyptian, the other likes to play and doesn't know much about the law. Eugene is the one who knows the most about the laws of the wizarding world. Among the 5 people, etc., Cologne leaned against the window and stared carefully for a while. Did I see it wrong? The person in the car seems to be Harry Potter? Who is the other one? It's blocked and I can't see clearly. Uther frowned. Your savior really brings some surprises to everyone every year. I don't think he's trying to attract attention. Eugene shook his head. If you look at his expression, it doesn't look like he is excited about successfully attracting attention, but more like he is afraid. Adam did not participate in the discussion. Seeing this scene, he remembered some details that he had forgotten. There was no way he could not remember everything after so many years. There seemed to be a lively scene tomorrow morning. You said that thing was illegal, right? Will they be expelled? Bernard looked at Eugene. Eugene narrowed his eyes at the flying Ford outside the window. He recalled the last school year, the trolls on Halloween, the evil curses in the Quidditch game, and the inexplicable extra points for Harry and his friends at the year-end party. A series of abnormalities added together seemed to foreshadow something. Eugene spoke slowly. I think, probably not. It was indeed as Eugene said. They did not receive the news that Harry Potter was expelled. At the same time, the absence of the sorting ceremony made everyone who was paying attention to this matter know that the other person in the flying Ford with Harry was Ronald Weasley, MRS. Molly's voice, amplified 100 times, rang in the hall. Well, now everyone who is not paying attention to this matter should also know it was clearly the noise from Gryffindor, but the exaggerated sound of the howler still made the tableware on the Hufflepuff table tremble continuously. What is that? Bernard was shocked when he saw this kind of scene for the first time. Is this some kind of wizard version of a stun bomb? Howler. The effect is as you can see. Cologne wiped his hands and turned to look in the direction of the Gryffindor table with interest. Although the half-eaten baked potato fell into the cream of mushroom soup, this little thing was obviously not worth mentioning compared to the rare excitement of the howler. Although he was not very interested in the breakfast at Hogwarts, Adam, who came to join in the fun because he remembered this, also looked over the content of the howler. Continued, and under the gaze of almost everyone in the hall, poor Ronald Weasley himself, buried his face deeply in the plate in front of him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55. Badger is worried about you and made a cake for you. Perhaps because of the school-wide excitement in the morning, everyone was in a good mood. Well, it was pretty good until the first class. Ms. Abbott, I don't think the flabberworm will slice itself, huh? The low-ending tone made Hannah quickly pick up the slicing knife. Okay, Professor, why are you looking at me? Are you waiting for me to help you stir the potion in the crucible, Professor? Snape's eyes narrowed and looked at a student who had been distracted and forgot to stir the potion. Professor Snape glanced around the classroom, ignoring a certain outlier very naturally, and slowly walked to the podium. I hope that a vacation has not emptied your brains, otherwise I can only regrettably help you fill them up in some other ways, Professor. Snape showed a creepy smile on his face that made the students shudder. It just so happens that I have a new batch of toads and slugs that need to be dealt with. Huh? I knew something was wrong when I saw the first bubble pop up. Fortunately, I reacted quickly enough and remembered that I forgot to put the shrinking figs in it. I quickly added it in, and in the end the potion didn't have any problems. After class, Cologne let out a long breath, almost unable to help applauding his own wit. Otherwise, his name would definitely be added to the students who were sprayed with venom by Professor Snape. Just now Bernard also breathed a sigh of relief. As a partner, could he escape from being sprayed by Cologne? In the afternoon, it was the herbology class. Everyone thought that they could be healed by the kind and gentle dean, but they didn't expect to see Professor Sprout's expression that was obviously not very happy. Oh my God, did the school board find out that Professor Dumbledore embezzled public funds to buy candy and cut off the funding supply to Hogwarts? Cologne couldn't help but open his mouth. Otherwise, he really couldn't imagine why Professor Sprout, who always had a gentle smile all year round, showed this expression. Don't talk nonsense, Uther also frowned while speaking. Did someone do something excessive to the dean? It turns out that although the Badgers don't seem to have a strong presence in the school on weekdays, they are very efficient in action. When the dean was suspected of being bullied, someone collected relevant information before dinner. It's the new Professor Lockhart, Sr. Vivian slapped a book of Lockhart on the table. Well, is there any misunderstanding? After all, what we have collected are all speculations, and no one has seen it with their own eyes, right? After all, there is no specific contact with Lockhart, and most students now, especially girls, still have certain fantasies about this new professor. Besides, it is unlikely that a new professor would offend a dean on his first day at work, right? In comparison, they were more willing to believe that it was a disobedient student who did it, and Professor Lockhart might have just happened to catch up. Well, it seems that there is no direct evidence. Vivian thought about it. Although the news she got from the Gryffindor who took the herbology class in the morning was very indicative, it seemed not strong enough to say that it was definitely done by Professor Lockhart. Although the culprit was not caught, at Adam's suggestion, several of them who knew each other made a big cake for Professor Sprout as a comfort. The cake base was made by everyone, and everyone used their imagination and creativity to decorate the top. But those who were not good at hands-on could only ask Adam to do it. Everyone couldn't be more satisfied with the final product, especially the funded decoration in the center of the cake. Professor Sprout surrounded by a group of Badgers looking at this big cake. Everyone couldn't help swallowing their saliva. No, I can't eat it. This is for the dean. Oh my God, Adam, you will definitely make a lot of money even if you only sell funded cakes in the future. Cedric looked at the small but still lifelike Professor Sprout and couldn't help sighing. Cedric, please don't say such words that threaten my happiness in the second half of my life. Bruce touched his belly. Since he became addicted to the food made by Adam, his dessert intake has increased, but his belly has become smaller. Now this is still fat during the holidays. After thinking it over, Bruce felt that if he could always eat the food made by Adam, it would be just around the corner to lose weight and become a perfect figure. Everyone sent the cake to Professor Sprout's office together, and the fat gray-haired witch covered her mouth all of a sudden. Oh my God. Is this for me? Of course, Professor Sprout, we hope you can live happily every day. At this moment, Bernard, who has always been able to be punished or handcuffed, behaved very well. Hufflepuff is the most populous house, but Professor Sprout always cares about every Hufflepuff. Because he is worried that Bernard, who comes from a Muggle family, cannot adapt well to Hogwarts, Bernard has also been given special care. Of course, I am happy every day, especially today, Professor. Sprout looked at the cake in front of him, took out his wand and waved it. Let's eat together. I can't finish such a big cake by myself. The fondant in the middle of the cake was retained by Professor Sprout. It was too big. Everyone got a piece of cake as big as a faceplate, but there was still a small half left. I will bring these cakes to other professors during dinner later so that everyone can taste them together. As Professor Sprout spoke, he used magic to press the piece of fondant back, obviously planning to let other professors take a look at it in the evening while eating the cake. Bernard couldn't help but bring up the unsolved mystery. Professor Sprout, On the first day of school we noticed that you didn't seem very happy. Did you run into some trouble? Oh? What? The first day of school, Professor Sprout fell into memories. What did she do that day? Oh, by the way, Harry Potter and Ron Weasley's flying car injured the Whomping Willow. She splinted the Whomping Willow that day, and then, that's when I met Lockhart. Recalling that person, Professor Sprout couldn't help but frown. She remembered the child who liked to attract everyone's attention in class. Originally, she was really happy for him after knowing that he had achieved good results, but when she really got in touch with him, she found that he seemed to be, how should I put it, although she had no intention of commenting on the quality of other people, the fact that the other person almost caused problems with her treatment of the Whomping Willow that day did make Professor Sprout a little annoyed. After thinking of this, Professor Sprout also understood why he received such a surprise today. It's nothing, it's just that I treated the injured Whomping Willow that day, and I felt a little distressed when I saw the broken part of the Whomping Willow. Professor Sprout smiled softly. Chapter 56 Love Card. A trial that suddenly begins. Back in the dormitory, Colin said with a serious face, now it's certain that it was Harry Potter and Ron Weasley who did it. There was a sudden chill behind the two people far away in Gryffindor Tower, and they sneezed a dozen times in a row. No, I don't think Professor Sprout meant this. It should be Lockhart. Do you remember the news that senior sister Vivian asked about? Eugene calmly analyzed. They saw Professor Sprout and Professor Lockhart appear together, and then Professor Lockhart bragged for a while that Professor Sprout had completed the treatment of the Whomping Willow under his guidance. If it was Lockhart who did it, then Professor Sprout wouldn't accuse him because of her character, but she wouldn't lie either, so she said she was angry because of the Whomping Willow. Uther nodded. So, the breaking of the Whomping Willow was indeed the reason why Professor Sprout was angry, right, Bernard? Concluded. Eugene hesitated for a moment, feeling that the future of Harry and Ron would be worrying if this continued, considering that the twins had a good relationship with him. Adam left in a hurry just now. Do you know where he went? I don't know. Maybe there's something urgent. I remember he said on the Express that Fox didn't like Huaxia Phoenix's food very much, so he made new ones. Did he feed Fox? It's possible. Seeing that everyone's attention had been diverted, Eugene breathed a sigh of relief at this time. Adam is the key that hides the power of darkness. Show your true power in front of me. Adam, who made a contract with you, orders you to lift the seal, because he felt this mantra was shameful. Adam never recited it a second time after he was able to put away the Rod of Darkness directly, but this time it was special. The Staff of Darkness was formally summoned, and Adam held the Staff of Darkness high. Zaya Oak and Sibby showed their true bodies and stood on both sides of Adam. Under the feet of one person and two beasts was a huge magic circle that enveloped them all, where the three lines of sight converged. In midair above their heads, a Clow Card was undergoing a transformation from virtual to real. I didn't expect that the opportunity to unite the love cards would come so early. Zio K couldn't help but sigh. He had imagined Adam as powerful as possible, but he still didn't expect that Adam would be able to gather the love card in just 1 year. Adam's magic suddenly grew so much this holiday season. Sibby squinted his eyes and recalled, it seems that after that sudden trip, Adam's magic took a leap when he came back. Could it be that Adam went behind their backs to eat something delicious secretly? Zio K nodded and analyzed with a serious face. Sibby's eyelids twitched and his flesh pads moved, but he still did not attack Zio K at such a serious and important moment. Under the expectant gaze, the last bit of the love card finally took shape, and the magic circle under his feet dimmed in the blink of an eye. Adam was somewhat exhausted and used the Rod of Darkness to support himself so as not to fall. Adam, Zio Oak, and Sibby stepped forward and used their bodies to lean against Adam, allowing Adam to free his hands to catch the love card that fell without magic support. This is love card. Adam remembered that the love card in his memory seemed to be a heart with wings, but now the one in Adam's hand looked more like a one-hole mirror, a bit like a magic card, but without the gem. Yes, this is your love card, Adam. Do you want to try it to see its effect? Zio K stared at the love card curiously, but was slapped on the head by CB. Adam has just gathered the love cards and is already very tired. He should go to rest now. It's not that serious. I found that after the love card was condensed, my magic power recovered very quickly. Wait a minute. Adam suddenly remembered something and summoned the Book of Sealings. The Clow card at the top was no longer the tree card he placed on top when he sorted it out last time, but, no. License, Zio. K and CB's hair suddenly stood up. When they saw Adam reaching out towards Wu-Pai, they quickly stopped him. Adam, even if you have condensed the love card, if you want to touch the no card, you must at least wait until your condition is restored, right? It's no joke if the no card backfires, your entire concept of existence will be erased, and even time can be traced back. I can't find you anymore. No, the contract told me that the trial without a license has begun. Don't worry about me. I will be back soon. The moment Adam's fingers touched no card, the light from no card swallowed Adam in. The sealed book fell to the ground with a clack sound, and the Clow cards were scattered on the ground. Zio K and CB's pupils instantly shrank into thin slits. Adam was swallowed by no card. He didn't bring the Clow card yet. Zio suddenly jumped up, stretched out his paws to pick up the Clow card, and tried to send the Clow card to Adam. However, those Clow cards flew up one by one to avoid Zio K's claws. That's no card. Do you want them to die? CB finally calmed down, and when he saw the troublemaker next to him, he couldn't help but slap him again. Adam brought the love card, and that's enough. All we can do is believe in him. The space within the unlicensed, Adam looked at the gray ground under his feet, and then at the gray sky above his head, with endless horizons in all directions. Is this the trial without a card? It was as if the endlessly extended world had no echo. Adam tried, but could not summon the dark rod, the sealed book, or anything else. Payless is the opposite of all existence, a nothingness that has nothing. Are you asking me to give an answer to nothingness? Adam tilted his head. I think, therefore I am. The world did not change at all. Speaking of which, why does nothingness have the ground and the sky? Although it is pure color, there should be nothing, right? As soon as the voice fell, Adam lost his vision. Of course, it may also be that Payless really wiped out the pure world, so he could not see anything. Wow, what a high efficiency. Adam clapped a few times, but there seemed to be no air around him. Only the applause transmitted by his body was a little different from usual, so Payless should still learn physics. If there was a vacuum around him, he should have exploded by now, but this also shows that he is indeed going through a trial now, rather than facing the annihilation of Wu-Pai directly. Wu-Pai's removal of the scenery of heaven and earth, according to what he said, also reflects that Wu-Pai is paying attention to him. He needs to abide by the rules, and Wu-Pai also needs to do the same, instead of directly taking action like he did to Sakura. This has given Adam enough confidence. The next step is to answer Wu-Pai's test. Before he tested the magic of his favorite card, the Book of Seals gave Wu-Pai a trial, so the answer to this trial is to find the magic of his favorite card himself. Chapter 57 I Conquered Wu-Pai. Before finding the magic of the love card, Adam must at least find his love card first. Adam remembered that he was holding the love card in his hand, and of course the dark staff, but when he came here, both disappeared. Obviously, this was the first question of the card list. This was not difficult for Adam. The love card is not something I got from anywhere. It is a Clow card condensed by myself. Adam recalled that he had sensed the opportunity to condense the love card several times the first night he signed the contract with the Book of Seals. He relied on memories and the love between his family to sense the opportunity to condense the love card for the first time when he was playing with SPI and Zio K, relying on the love between the main pet, the love between friends, the love for the furry. In short, he sensed the opportunity to condense the love card for the second time. At that time, one time, when he followed Professor Sprout to study magical plans, Professor Sprout smiled and introduced him to a group of tree guards on the guardian tree. The love between teachers and students made him sense the opportunity to condense the love card for the third time after returning from the Forbidden Forest with everyone that day. They had a long talk that night, relying on the love between classmates? Or love between friends? He sensed the opportunity to condense the love card for the fourth time. These were all passive opportunities to sense that he could condense the love card. At that moment, love was so surging in his heart. But can the love card be condensed? Only when the opportunity is sensed. Love will not disappear just because you don't find it. People who have love are always surrounded by love. As long as you feel it once, you will never ignore that feeling. Adam stretched out his hand. Although he couldn't see it, he knew that he had caught a love card condensed by himself. At the same time, he also understood why his love card was like a kaleidoscope. It was probably because the love he thought of when he condensed the love card was too complicated. When Sakura condensed the love card, She probably only thought about her love for Xiaolang, so she had a pink girl's heart with wings after finding the love card. The first question of the cardless card was solved, but the next step was the key: how to face nothingness with love. Adam fell into deep thought. Without the dark stick in his hand, he could not directly use the way of unsealing the Clow card to know the magic of the love card. He had to learn what the magic of the love card was by himself. It would be useless to make random guesses. It is impossible to list all the magic effects without a range. Adam grabbed the love card and fell into silence while thinking. Time passed by. How many minutes? How many seconds? I don't know. At first, Adam's mind would still be uncontrollably guessing, such as Hancock's sweet fruit, the holy letter L and the god of death. Of course, those could not be the magic of the love card. Gradually, Adam could not continue to think about it. He could feel that nothingness was eroding his heart at this moment. At this place, light and darkness do not exist, earth, water, wind and fire do not exist, and there is even no concept of time and space. All shapes, images, and qualities do not exist. This is the nothingness that is opposed to everything. Under the erosion of endless nothingness, Adam had no power to resist. Nothingness did not take the initiative to attack. All his strength and energy had been exhausted, so nothingness naturally filled these gaps, or nothingness is the name of these gaps. This is the real test of the cardless, which is similar to Sakura's test. Any words are too pale and powerless, and whether you can fight against nothingness can only be proved by actual actions. Vision has long been lost, and the sense of smell cannot be judged. The hearing cannot be verified when he has no strength to make a sound. Is the taste still there? Probably not. Adam didn't even know if he was still holding the love card. Nothingness eroded to the last point, but could no longer move forward at the last point in the heart. The thing that could not be eroded by nothingness was love. Those colorful memories and emotions like a kaleidoscope were so abnormal and dazzling in the gray world, and in turn began to affect the gray as if it was an illusion. Adam, who had no consciousness, seemed to see a girl with a sad face smiling at him. The sense of reality of all existence in the world suddenly returned, and Adam opened his eyes. He held the dark rod in one hand and 2 Clow cards in the other. One was the love card he had grabbed before, and the other was the no card. I conquered the no card. Wait, these 2 Clow cards seem to look a bit, Adam. You're back. Before he could take a closer look, Adam was pounced on by 2 large cats. Just as he opened his mouth to say something, 2 wet tongues licked him, and Adam had no choice but to close his mouth. Fortunately, Xiaoke and Sibi were not exactly the same as lions and leopards in nature. At least there were no barbs on their tongues. How long have I been in the trial? After waiting for Xiaoke and Sibi to calm down, Adam got up and rubbed his cheeks with his hands. When he was licked just now, he unconsciously kept his face tense, and it was almost stiff. Xiaoke and Sibi looked at each other. I don't know. There's no timekeeping tool here. SPI glanced at the Clow cards that had been lying on the ground and had not been picked up yet, and stretched out his claws to pull out the time card. It's over. Only 15 minutes, really? Adam didn't know, but he always felt like he had been with no card for more than 15 minutes. Nothingness. Now that I think about it, it's such a terrifying power. Adam sighed and took up the love card and no card and looked at them carefully. They're really different. Although it still looked like a Clow card, it was different from the original Clow card, which was monotonous in color and only had color at the most critical point. At this time, the love card in Adam's hand was dyed with brilliant colors. As for no card, it can be seen that she was wearing a gray dress. Her hair and the wings behind her head were silver white, and she had a peaceful smile on her face. When Adam was surprised, no card on the card suddenly opened his eyes, and Adam was so scared that he almost threw no card away. This is Payless blinked playfully, as if a prank had succeeded. Adam, hello, Zio. K jumped up on the spot and stepped back a long way. Payless can actually talk, don't you know? Adam looked at Zio K curiously, and Zio K immediately replied, Payless is not under my control. How could I know? I haven't even seen Wu Pai before today. Are you the seal beast? How rude. Of course I can talk, Payless said with his hands on his waist on the card, and then sighed, but I haven't talked to any existence before. Any existence that touches me will be swallowed up in an instant. Except for the magician who created me, and you, Payless looked at Adam. You are very different. Do you remember Clow Reed? Adam was surprised. He had asked Zio K, SPI, and the Clow cards about Clow Reed before. However, Although Zioke and Sibi remembered Clowreed, they could not even remember his appearance, let alone his memory of Clowreed. The situation of the Clow Cards was even worse. They only remembered that their creator was called Clowreed. I can't remember much about the creator, but there is a deep impression in my mind. Woo. Pai looked like he was lost in memories. He was a very complicated guy, more colorful than everything, and more empty than me. Chapter 58 Adam Card, Lockhart Seeking Death. More colorful than anything else, and more nihilistic than no card. Just when Adam was still thinking about the meaning of this sentence, Wu Pai spread his hands. I actually only met him once, and then he was sealed away. Feel sorry, it's okay. Wu Pai pulled the hem of her skirt and turned it around inside the card. Anyway, I was affected by the magic of nothingness at that time, and I didn't even know how long I had been sealed. Now I am very satisfied with the life I am freed from the Clow Card. Wait, what Wu Pai said just now is so informative. Adam pressed his forehead. First of all, why are you affected by the magic of nothingness? Huh? That's the literal meaning. It shouldn't be difficult to understand, right? Wu Pai assumed her previous posture and sad expression. The magic of nothingness is so powerful that even I can't escape its influence. I am immersed in nothingness and emptiness all day long. The female voice that suddenly became ethereal was lifeless, but it regained its vitality the next moment. It feels completely different now than you just said you were freed from the Clow Card. Oh? When the trial started, Kirito's seal had lost its effect, so my power went wild. Not noticing the petrified expressions of Zioke and CP, Wu Pai said matter-of-factly, it was you who used the power of love to break me out of nothingness, so I belong to you now. Strictly speaking, my name should be Adam Card now. Adam Card. Adam looked at Wu Pai in a daze, then looked at Ape. The love card has also become the Adam Card. Well, the same goes for the love card. In the world of nothingness, the love card you condensed by yourself no longer has any shadow of Kirito. So, am I going to start converting Clow Cards into Adam Cards now? Adam thought this was a bit too fast. He hadn't learned the magic on the Clow Card yet. And shouldn't there be a new sealing staff to transform the Clow Card? Isn't it up to you? Could it be that someone forced you? Wu Pai tilted his head, and a flash of emptiness flashed in his eyes. If that's the case, you can tell me. My combat effectiveness should still be quite high. You are the Clow Card that can destroy the world, okay? Don't talk about the horror so lightly. And what did you mean when you said that Clowrito's seal lost its effect at the beginning of the trial? Zioke rushed forward. Aren't you a seal beast? Why do you still ask me about this kind of thing? That sentence is literal. I don't know if it was Adam's misunderstanding, but Wu Pai's attitude towards Zioke didn't seem to be that gentle to him. However, after being reminded by Zioke, Adam also regained his focus before being distracted by the Adam Card. What if I fail the test? Then the infinitely expanding void will probably swallow this world. Wu Pai pointed his lower lip with his index finger and thought for a moment before saying, and finally nodded to confirm, is Crowley so good at what he does? Adam couldn't help but smacked his lips. Or, Adam, you can also think that he expected that you would definitely pass the trial? Sibi comforted, there's no way to confirm it with him anyway, so don't think too much. Sibi, come over while you comfort Adam. Zio K suddenly spoke and reached out to push CP. What? Your trembling legs make my waist numb. Shut up. Meow. Looking at Zioke and CB fighting in a ball, a question mark seemed to appear on Wu Pai's head. She always felt that the sealed beast was less intelligent than she imagined. Adam was silent for a while, feeling that what CB said made sense. Anyway, only Crowlito himself knows what is going on, so he should not think about it so much at this time. Adam discovered that the Clow Cards were scattered on the ground. As soon as he squatted down to pick them up, the Clow Cards on the ground flew into the Book of Seals one by one. The Book of Seals floated to Adam's palm and fell. This is probably, it's the love card. When Zioke and CB were also confused, Wu Pai spoke. I only guessed based on the brief contact before. The power of love cards seems to surround you all the time. The power of love cards. Adam himself didn't feel any magic around him, or he didn't know the effect of his love card now. From what no card said, it seemed to be a permanent magic card that didn't need to be activated. Is there any mistake? Uther is the descendant of Pharaoh. Not wanting to dwell on this matter for the time being, Adam looked at Wu Pai and hesitated. Do you want to enter the Book of Ceilings now? It seems that without a card, you can move freely on the card surface. Do you feel lonely being locked up in the sealed book? Haha. It doesn't matter. I don't object to resting alone. Then, see you next time. Wu Pei smiled happily, and then slowly closed his eyes, as if he was in a sealed state, but the corner of his mouth was still smiling. Oh. My God, I can hardly imagine that it is a terrible unlicensed thing, this. Time, after the sealed book was put away by Adam, Zio-K couldn't help but speak. Is that personality a little too healthy? I think it should be the influence of the love card, right? Sibi looked at Adam and guessed, well, it's very likely. Zio-K nodded, okay, you two should change back too. Adam looked at Zio-K and Sibi and couldn't help sighing. Who would have thought that condensing a love card would lead to so many things? Forget it, let's think about the problem at hand first. What to eat tonight? In order to ensure that he was safe enough and not disturbed when condensing the love card, Adam deliberately came to the room of requirement. After coming out, it was a long way to walk back to the dormitory. It would be time to eat soon after walking to the dormitory, so Adam simply didn't go back to the dormitory first, and went directly to the nearby principal's office to play with Fox, and it wouldn't be too late to meet up with everyone at dinner time. At dinner, the air pressure around the 5 people in the dormitory gathered together was a little low. On the teacher's seat, Lockhart was holding Professor Sprout's cake and talking excitedly, which made the professors in the entire teacher's seat look unhappy. Have you heard? This afternoon, Lockhart was taught a lesson by a cage of Cornish elves he brought to the classroom. Uther lowered his voice to Adam, who had just joined them, and the test paper he gave in class had nothing to do with defense against the dark arts. It was all about his novels, and the part related to his personal preferences. It felt worse than last year's defense against the dark arts class. Cologne continued to denounce angrily. At least the textbooks selected by Professor Quirrell were normal, and reading from the books was better than Lockhart's class. He feels like a liar. How dare he? Eugene stared at the teacher's seat with wide eyes. Lockhart was laughing and picking up a table knife to cut the fondant of Professor Sprout and the Badgers. Chapter 59. The Mysterious Power from the East. Lockhart returns. Oh, of course, this shows that you are very popular with the students, doesn't it? My fans often give me such gifts. The fondant on the cake last time was even dancing. Professor Dumbledore frowned when he saw Lockhart pick up the table knife, and silently moved his hand towards the Elder Wand. However, before he could take action, Lockhart's knife had already cut quickly. It doesn't matter, you can still fix it by controlling your magic power and repairing it as before. Just when Professor Dumbledore was thinking this, the cut fondant suddenly changed slightly. The group of small badger-shaped fondant decorations suddenly turned into green spheres during distortion, and each one was growing rapidly. Professor Sprout, who was still immersed in shock and sadness, was stunned. Why does the ball look so familiar? A bit like Chinese biting cabbage. The whole transformation process is not long. In less than 3 seconds, the first Chinese biting cabbage has grown to mature size and opened its mouth. The professor sitting next to Lockhart couldn't help but move back to the sides, but Lockhart, who was immersed in sharing how delicious the cake his fans gave him, didn't notice this. In order to make the action of cutting into the fondant shaped like Professor Sprout less deliberate, Lockhart deliberately did not look at the cake when he operated the knife, so that he could use the excuse of not seeing it to excuse himself. But now this behavior came with a price. Click. The crisp sound seemed to be the breaking of some hard object. He felt a sharp pain in the palm of his hand holding the table knife. Lockhart turned his head with a distorted face. Unexpectedly, he saw a cabbage. Lockhart, at the end of his memory, Lockhart vaguely seemed to see at least a dozen cabbages flying towards him and opening their abyssal maws. Seeing the chaos at the teacher's desk, the magic circle in Adam's palm slowly dissipated. Feel the mysterious power from the East. The flower card that can transform Chinese biting cabbage was something he discovered in greenhouse number 3. Come to think of it, who said the flowers of magical plants are not flowers? Moreover, the flower of Chinese biting cabbage actually has a mouth with sharp teeth. Adam was even a little curious about how they were pollinated, but after thinking about it carefully, he chose to ignore this problem. I regret to tell you that your Professor Lockhart will have to stay in the hospital wing for at least half a month to grow his nose again. So, Professor Snape, who used his wand to pull up the curtains all the way, turned around with his cloak gathered around the podium, looked at the students below and twitched his lips. Adam guessed that Professor Snape was probably like him, controlling himself not to laugh. "Now, throw away the garbage on your desk and look ahead, Professor." Snape waved his wand, and the projection cloth in front of the classroom hung down. After class, Bernard packed up his notes, picked up his bag and sighed. "Professor Snape is really awesome. Why not let him teach us defense against the dark arts all the time?" I remember Cedric mentioned it when talking about the legend of defense against the dark arts. Professor Snape always thought become a defense against the dark arts professor. Maybe it's because Professor Snape's ability in potions is so irreplaceable, Adam said while sorting out notes in his shorthand quill pen. "As for part-time positions, it's okay for several professors to take turns teaching as they do now. It would be too scary for a professor to take 2 courses, even if 2 colleges in 1 grade can take classes together. There are 4 colleges and 7 grades, and 1 compulsory course. Professor originally gave 14 classes a week, but 2 classes would make up to 28 classes. Who can bear this?" Speaking of which, Adam, you are so awesome. You can make a woo-woo sound in a cake. Cologne was covered by Uther mid-sentence. Although every professor except Lockhart should have guessed what happened, it's better not to say it so openly. Although Professor Dumbledore seriously called Adam forward that day to ask what was going on, he let him pass without questioning the explanation given by Adam. In order to prevent Professor Sprout's funded from being destroyed by bad guys, he set up anti-theft magic or something. Uther felt ridiculous just thinking about it, but when Adam said this, he looked confident. Who would be a good person who would think of cutting Professor Sprout on top of that warm fondant? Professor Dumbledore was questioned on the spot, especially since Professor Sprout himself was standing nearby. The cake matter was settled. Professor Dumbledore disposed of the Chinese biting cabbage, sent Lockhart, whose face was covered with blood, to the hospital wing, and repaired Professor Sprout's fondant. Sprout, the professor, was in a good mood and gave him a large piece of cake. Professor Dumbledore, who had been shown off, did not expect to see 2 flocks when he returned to the office. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that one of them was fondant, so he was shown off again. The old principal, who unsuccessfully tried to ask for a bite of Fox's fondant version, thought of the delicious cake he had just eaten, and suddenly became greedy on the tip of his tongue and hungry in his stomach. He began to think about how big the principal and the 4th hospital should order the next time he asked Adam to order a banquet. Long-style fondant. It will be okay for him to eat his own fondant then, right? Although many people hoped that Lockhart could stay in the hospital wing, Madame Pomfrey's professionalism was unquestionable, and Lockhart returned to his post in less than half a month. Adam and the others also had to usher in their first defense against the dark arts class with Lockhart. "Students, I'm glad to see you all." Lockhart's bright smile couldn't be stretched for a moment when he saw Adam, and his nose and bones felt phantom pain. However, he was able to maintain his 5-time winner of the Wizard Weekly Most Charming Smile Award smile. "Ahem, let me introduce myself belatedly. Due to a small accident, I had to trouble my colleagues to teach you a few lessons on my behalf. But I believe that in these few lessons, everyone should have already understood. I have a certain understanding, right?" Lockhart rubbed his hands and looked around, but found that there were no works of his on everyone's table. "I remember that your textbook this year is my work." "Where is the book?" The students looked at each other for a while, then looked at Lockhart. "Professor Lockhart, you didn't inform us that you were in class today, so we didn't bring it," varied Lockhart's lips twitched. This class was his first class back, and he really didn't know about it. It took Lockhart a while to find his voice. "Then how did you take classes during this period?" "Wouldn't the professors who were teaching him use his defense against the dark arts class to teach their own subjects? The professors used projectors and blackboards to teach us the content of theory of magical defense," the students replied. "Oh. Well, yes, it is a book of some standard, but it is too boring." Lockhart racked his brains and couldn't remember what was said in the magical defense theory. The time at Hogwarts was too long ago for him, but it didn't matter. He didn't use that book as a teaching material. "Believe me, everyone will definitely be able to learn knowledge while having fun." Lockhart was somewhat glad that he had brought his books with him. He picked up a copy of Breaking with a Female Ghost and looked at it with the same smile on his face as on the cover. "Has anyone volunteered to play one once female ghost?" Hufflepuff and Slytherin, who were waiting for him to start the official class. Chapter 60, a story written for you. Dumbledore's brain must be soaked in sugar. Couldn't he hire a normal person to be the defense against the dark arts professor? "I want my dad to fire that idiot, Draco," cursed and led his followers as they passed by Adam and the others, but it seemed that the other party didn't notice them at all. Looking at his back, Adam sighed sympathetically, poor kid. No matter what Draco originally thought going up to perform, the result of sharing the stage with Lockhart was that all the front and highlight scenes belonged to each other, and Draco, who played the female ghost of Wanlun, was forced to wail and cry. It's about running away. Seriously, are we going to become this virtuous in the next defense against the dark arts class? Colin's face was filled with sadness. I'm afraid that's the case, unless Uther glanced at Adam unless Adam sent him to the hospital wing again, but that was obviously impossible. Lockhart himself went too far the first time, and the professors would not let him go again if it happened again at Hogwarts. He was not the only one who had the same idea as Cologne, comparing people to death, and comparing goods to goods. After experiencing the substitute lessons of a master of dark magic, a dueling champion, an expert on transfiguration, and a living encyclopedia of magical animals and plants, even the most loyal Lockhart fans can't bite the bullet. Said Professor Lockhart taught well. Professor Lockhart knows so many things, so it's understandable that he's not very good at teaching. If you're not good at teaching, then don't become a professor. Hearing such an argument, Adam couldn't help but start thinking. He seemed to have maintained Lockhart's image in the hearts of fans to a certain extent by keeping Lockhart offline for half a month. What do you like about Lockhart? One weekend, Adam asked this question in the common room to interview several classmates who had been standing firm and defending Professor Lockhart. Professor Lockhart is really talented. If you read his works carefully, you will know that it would be impossible to write so well without personal experience. His adventures are so cool. He is simply a living legend. I believe Professor Lockhart is just not good at words, but he is still very powerful. Professor Lockhart's smile is really charming. Well, aside from the small number of fans, the vast majority of those who still firmly believe in Lockhart are basically attracted by his works. As we all know, a person's memory cannot be manipulated, so the extremely real experiences written in novels must be true. This inference cannot be said to have too many logical problems. Before Adam came to this world, he had heard that a certain author wrote spy novels that were too realistic, but he was found out to be a spy. But there is more than logic in this world. There is also magic. So how do you defeat magic? The famous Eastern Key magic master, Dad once said. Oops, oh no, it should be, use magic to defeat magic. Came to the room of requirement again. This time Adam asked for a room that was convenient for one person to create. Opening the door, the room of requirement turned into a brightly lit study room. Pulling out the chair and sitting down, Adam summoned a creation card with a book with a star symbol on it and placed it on the desk. The dark staff appeared in his other hand, the seal is lifted. There are not many special effects, and the original card body, that is, the book on the card, appears on the table. The magic of the creation card can turn the stories written on the creation card into reality, including those fictional things, because the writing state must be maintained when activated, and the manifested things will disappear after canceling the magic. So Adam only summoned the creation card once in order to familiarize himself with each Clow card. Normally, he would not use it at all, but now he uses this Clow card. It's quite appropriate. Glancing at the alarm clock on the desk, Lockhart was about to start his performance. Adam opened the original card and picked up the quill in the book. Don't Professor Lockhart like to write novels? You might as well taste my works for yourself today. After all, this is a story written for you. No need to dip in ink. The tip of the quill swished across the paper, and the classroom where Lockhart was sitting also quietly changed slightly. Hiss. Ron shrank his neck and turned his head to look at Harry. You don't feel a little cold? It's probably because the temperature has dropped. Harry looked listless. Remember when school started and they drove the flying cart to Hogwarts? Although he was not expelled or deducted points for this, he still couldn't escape the confinement. He had been in confinement at Lockhart's place for the past 2 days. I spent an entire night writing fan replies for Lockhart. After so many days, he still hasn't recovered, probably because of this. Lockhart, who had always been keen on calling Harry up to perform with him on the same stage and quietly rubbing off on Harry's enthusiasm, took the rare opportunity to call another classmate to come up and perform with him. Today, we are going to restore an important part of the story where I expelled the female ghost Wanlun. Everyone must observe carefully and pay attention to how I did it. After speaking, Lockhart showed a bright smile, took the posture he had done countless times, and turned his head to look at the child named Neville. Don't be afraid, Just do as I say in the book, Lockhart's smile froze on his face. A smile slowly appeared on the expressionless face of the female ghost, who was almost face to face with him. Adam had never seen a female ghost in this world. Based on the descriptions he had read in the book, he naturally wrote the female ghost as a ghost nun or Churenmei, but in fact, it was much more terrifying than a real female ghost. Therefore, Lockhart, who had never seen a real female ghost, felt his heart stop for a few seconds when he saw the female ghost with black eye circles and white pupils grinning all the way to the roots of her ears, revealing her uneven black teeth. Oh my! Harry, look! This guy's acting skills have improved today. Ron was a little excited to see this scene, and pushed Harry's arm. He looks like he has seen a female ghost. Harry looked up at the podium, and it was obvious that Lockhart's acting skills had improved a lot. Facing Neville, who looked timid, he showed an extremely terrified look. Why didn't he see him so devoted when performing with him before? Could it be that Lockhart was deliberately disgusting him? Ron was not the only one who noticed that Lockhart was abnormal today, especially those students who had always firmly believed in Lockhart's level. Looking at Lockhart expectantly, could it be that Professor Lockhart was finally going to do it for real today? There's a female ghost. A sharp and distorted scream burst out from Lockhart's mouth, and while screaming, Lockhart suddenly jumped up half a body height, which scared Neville. From Lockhart's perspective, the female ghost's black and wet hair slowly floated up, raised her hands, flashed in place, and when she appeared again, she was a little closer to him. Chapter 61. Some people seem to be asleep. Ever since he fainted in class for the first time, Lockhart was a little hesitant to perform in class, and his image in the eyes of students had collapsed. After all, he couldn't explain why he fainted in class. He couldn't say that he was frightened by the sight of the female ghost. If he hadn't boasted about it before, that small injury was nothing to him who had experienced many battles. It can be attributed to the sequelae of previous injuries. In fact, Lockhart seriously suspected that he had been plotted, but he could not find any evidence, let alone ask anyone else for help directly. He did tentatively ask his old dean, Professor Flitwick, how he should deal with a female ghost. However, Professor Flitwick knew very well what he wanted to do, and smiled and told him that he was experienced enough, and then, not wanting to listen to his next bragging, he left directly. For the first time, Lockhart felt like he had shot himself in the foot. Students, let's go to this class together. Lockhart looked on. Recite my works and feel how I fought against those evil creatures during the adventure. What's going on with this guy? Bernard had a question mark on his face, but no one around him could give him an answer. Adam, the only one who knew what happened, was controlling the shorthand quill to write on the body of the creation card. What are you waiting for? Looking at the puzzled and doubtful looks of his classmates, Lockhart smiled bravely and raised his hand. Don't you have a clue? Let me pick a paragraph for you. He casually picked up the first book from the desk of a Slytherin student in the first row and flipped through. How about starting the second chapter of Wandering with Werewolves from here? There was no way. No matter how outrageous Lockhart was, he was still a professor, so everyone could only pick up the book and flip to the place he said and start reading. It was in that forest, under the moonlight, that I saw that creature. Stop. Stop. Wait a minute. Lockhart hurriedly raised his hand to stop the student's recitation. As everyone stopped, the forest and moon disappeared before Lockhart's eyes, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Stop reading it. Ahem. Well, the story just now was too scary. Let's change a chapter. How about chapter 27? The students looked at each other for a while, then a Lockhart fan hesitantly said, But, Professor Lockhart, chapter 27 is the end of the story. You and the werewolf have been separated. Yes, that's right. But Miss Marcel, you have to know, feeling the beauty of life is a very important thing for you. Lockhart nodded matter-of-factly. But you just said you want us to feel how you fight against those evil creatures during your adventure. Did I say that? Lockhart smiled and tried to pass it off, but the classmates nodded honestly. Oh, then, okay then. Not sure if it was an illusion, but Eugene felt that Lockhart's smile looked like he was crying. For a moment Lockhart moved a chair to sit behind the podium and smiled hard at everyone. Everyone, let's get started. There was no way. He really didn't know how to take defense against the dark arts classes, and he couldn't just stop taking classes. compared to actually participating in acting with monsters and monsters. Lockhart felt that it would be less scary to sit here and watch, and maybe he wouldn't be able to see it if he closed his eyes. Lockhart took a deep breath and closed his eyes. It was in that forest, under the moonlight, that I saw that creature. The moment the students' voices rang out, Lockhart's eyelids jumped suddenly anyway. The professor had his eyes closed. How could he, a professor who had just taught them a few classes, still be able to tell whether he had spoken? With this thought, many people simply closed their mouths, but most of them still lip-synced silently to prevent Lockhart from suddenly opening his eyes. Professor Lockhart seems very engaged, Hannah muttered as she was about to read the climax. Ernie, who was sitting diagonally behind her, couldn't help but complain, "Why do I feel like he's asleep?" Adam, who was not worried about Lockhart opening his eyes at all, chuckled when everyone read the part about the werewolf's transformation under the full moon in Chapter 4. Lockhart had already fainted, but could Adam let him go so easily? So Lockhart is now continuing to love each other in his dream with a werewolf. If he hadn't considered the national characteristics and feared that this guy would be happy, Adam would have planned to let the werewolf poke him in his sleep after class. Lockhart, who finally woke up from his nightmare, watched his classmates leave the classroom with a pale smile. After a while, he stood up from the still wet chair with trembling legs. After a while, "What did you do to Lockhart this time?" They didn't know what happened in other classes, but in this class they saw Lockhart's abnormality with their own eyes. When they returned to the dormitory, everyone pulled Adam to the small sofa and surrounded him out of curiosity. "How can you accuse someone of innocence out of thin air?" I read a lesson with a book in both hands and my voice full of emotion. Adam slapped his hand on the table and said plausibly, Yes, we believe you." Bernard nodded. "Then guess what Lockhart went through in this class?" "My guess may not be accurate. It's okay, let's just listen to it as a story." Cologne remembered that he still had a bag of unfinished buttermelon seeds, so he quickly took them from the bedside and put them on the table. The 5 people each grabbed a handful, accompanied by the sound of crack 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 of cracking melon seeds. Adam shared his guess with everyone, which immediately attracted a sigh. So, what he wrote was not his experience. Eugene looked suddenly enlightened, then frowned. Then how did he write so vividly? Based on his knowledge reserve, some of the plots and especially the details in Lockhart's novels are consistent with reality, and it is difficult to know these things without personal experience. He knew all this thanks to the fact that he had read the letters sent back by his parents over and over again since he was a child, so he would pay attention to those details. Maybe he heard it from someone else, Cologne guessed, but then he lost interest in those things and looked at Adam with shining eyes. Adam, what on earth did you show Lockhart that scared him like that?" "Let me see it." Bernard's eyes lit up, and then he turned to look at Adam. "Are you interested?" Adam looked at everyone. Cologne and Bernard were obviously very interested, Usher was slightly interested, and Eugene was not interested at first, but after thinking about it, he decided to experience it together. "Well, let's watch a horror movie together before dinner. Draw the curtains, turn off the lights, and ask everyone to sit on the small sofa." Adam turned into 5 buckets of popcorn and put them on the round table, and then turned into 5 cups of Coke, then summoned the brand and took out the shorthand quill. "Are you all ready?" Yeah, then. Midnight Ring is on. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, The Never-Ending Halloween Dinner. After a movie was played, Adam lit the lamp, turned his head and saw the different expressions of the 4 people. Eugene and Colin had the same tortured expressions on their faces. Eugene could barely maintain an upright sitting posture, but Colin had already shrunk into the small sofa. Bernard looked scared and excited, probably because Adam had developed the attribute of being a lover of ghost movies. Youth surprised Adam the most. His face was filled with unfinished content. The form of this curse is quite innovative. The videotape says you will definitely die in 7 days after watching it. I feel that many people can't help but be curious and want to see it, Uther commented as he ate popcorn and took a sip of Coke. At the end he had already finished his while watching the movie, and now he was eating cologne. This little glutton almost didn't touch the Coke and popcorn this time, which was really rare that night. The two figures slowly climbed up from the bed and looked at each other under the moonlight. Go to the bathroom together. When he reached the door, Colin paused as he held the doorknob. Although I went to the bathroom with Eugene, both of them were very scared and felt that they still didn't feel safe. Looking back at the three people on the bed, Bernard seemed to be quite scared, and Adam always felt that he might scare them when they went to the toilet, so it was better to find Uther stamp. Poke poke. Uther opened his hazy sleepy eyes and was startled when he saw the two people standing beside the bed. He raised his upper body. What are you, Uther? Do you want to use the bathroom? Huh? I don't want to. Uther grabbed his hair and was about to lie back down, when suddenly Eugene and Cologne held their arms. No, you want to, Uther. Wait a minute, let me put on my pajamas. After using the bathroom, Eugene and Colin returned to bed as if they were fleeing. After covering himself with a quilt, Colin breathed a sigh of relief. Then he felt that he was a little embarrassed along the way and couldn't help but glare at Adam in the bed next to him. As a result, Adam was seen leaning sideways and looking straight at him with his eyes open. Cologne. At that moment, Cologne's expression was frightened and even a little distorted. Fortunately, he still remembered that it was the middle of the night. He covered his mouth with his hand to block the scream, and then slowly retreated into the bed. Seeing this, Adam smiled slightly, hugged Zyok and CP, and closed his eyes, hiding under the covers. Right, I'll show you the curse another day. The sleepy Uther yawned and walked last. He glanced at Adam, who was sleeping peacefully surrounded by cats, and shook his head. What a sin. The horror story that day had a profound impact. At least the trip to the Forbidden Forest, originally scheduled for mid-October, was pushed back again and again, and it was almost Halloween. Colin and Eugene said that they are already working hard to adjust, and it will be enough to give them another half month at most. Perhaps it was because he wanted to venture into the Forbidden Forest as soon as possible, or perhaps because of his vague conscience. Lockhart was the only one who still enjoyed the terrifying feast carefully prepared by Adam after that day. And the plot becomes more and more exciting as the course progresses, and there are even scenes that have not appeared in Lockhart's works. This unexpected stimulation made Lockhart, who had thought he would be immune to these horror stories because of his habit, fainted from being moved. This time, Cologne's eyes looked at Lockhart with a bit of sympathy in addition to gloating. Last year's Halloween saw a troll invasion. I hope this year will be smoother, Uther sighed on the way to the Great Hall, and there was a slight pause in Adam's footsteps. School has been going on for so long. At first, he focused on conquering the no cards with love cards, and then focused on dealing with Lockhart. Today, he has been busy in the kitchen. He seems to have forgotten about the basilisk and the Horcrux. Fortunately, at least nothing happened during the dinner. The Hufflepuffs, except for the first-year students, were surprised to find that there were many pumpkin desserts on the table that were the same as last year. Many of them were holiday only and could not be bought at Adam's shop. In addition, the most attractive thing in the entire auditorium is probably the fondant in the shape of Professor Dumbledore on the classroom seat. The approximately 20-inch high fondant vividly recreates Professor Dumbledore's peaceful sleeping appearance. Even the bow on the beard and the half-moon glasses on the bridge of the nose are exactly the same. After the banquet, Professor Dumbledore took the lead in dividing the fondant. No, I have eaten enough. You should enjoy it yourself, Professor. McGonagall looked at Professor Dumbledore's left hand that Professor Dumbledore handed over and was silent for a moment, then declined politely. Professor Dumbledore looked at Professor Snape again, and Professor Snape stood up and left. The eyes continued to shift, and one professor after another hurriedly left before making eye contact with Professor Dumbledore. Only Professor Lockhart was caught by Professor Dumbledore because he was a step too slow. I remember you didn't eat much just now, Lockhart. Share some with me, Professor. Dumbledore had a loving smile on his face. Don't worry, I specifically confirmed with Adam that there is no magic protection on the fondant this time. It was fine that Professor Dumbledore didn't mention this, but Lockhart's face turned even darker when he mentioned it. Lockhart had either seen werewolves or female ghosts for so many days before, so of course he had no appetite for today's festive delicacies. Now Professor Dumbledore was teasing him with the culprit who had caused him to stay in the hospital for half a month. However, eating Dumbledore with Dumbledore seemed to be a good gimmick. Maybe he could make a headline with this after a long time. Thinking of this, Lockhart suppressed his dissatisfaction and forced a smile. Thanks to his experience during this period, Lockhart's ability to fake a smile has become better and better. Of course, Professor Dumbledore, I'm happy to. The sudden scream interrupted Lockhart's words, and mixed with a burst of commotion, Professor Dumbledore stood up, swooshed, and strode towards the direction where the sound came from. Lockhart's face was a little ugly, but he hurriedly followed. That was the corridor outside the auditorium leading to the main hall. The open space between the two windows was now surrounded by many classmates. When Professor Dumbledore arrived, Professor McGonagall had already controlled the situation. When he came, the witch walked forward with a serious expression. "Albus, Professor." Dumbledore followed Professor McGonagall's gaze and looked at the side wall, where two twisted lines of words were written with some liquid. "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Those who are enemies of the heir, beware." At the bottom of the wall, Mrs. Norris, who was petrified and held by the heartbroken Filch with a flash of thought in his eyes. Professor Dumbledore calmly comforted Professor McGonagall. "Don't worry, everyone. I will find out the situation." The sense of security brought by the greatest wizard of this century is amazing. When Professor Dumbledore said this, Adam could feel that the classmates around him were relieved. Chapter 63, The Legend of the Secret Chamber, The Future Should Change. Because Filch pointed out that this incident must have been done by Harry Potter, Professor Dumbledore had to take them all away. Although the people left behind dispersed, they also discussed what happened just now. Hogwarts. Chamber of Secrets. There is such a thing. Eugene frowned. "What is that?" Uther looked at him curiously. "A legend about Hogwarts. You should all know that the founders of Hogwarts, that is, the original 4 deans, had different requirements for selecting students." "I know this. I learned about the history of magic last semester." The Sorting Hat also continued the ideas of the 4 founders to sort students into houses. Cologne took the initiative to answer. "Well, so in the legend, the 4 founders had a fierce argument over the student's bloodline. Salazar Slytherin only wanted to recruit pure-blood students, while the other 3 opposed this. Only recruiting pure-blood students isn't that difficult to do." Uther was a little surprised. Even in their Egyptian wizarding world, there were almost no families left who had always maintained pure blood. The few families that remained could only be said to be very anthropomorphic. This was inevitable. There were only a few pure-blood wizards, and they rarely had many children. After a few intermarriages, they were all close relatives. Egypt was so big, and it was still like this, not to mention that Britain was so small, and there would be even fewer real pure-blood families, perhaps. The 3 founders have also considered this aspect. Eugene was not particularly clear about this, so he could only guess. He then continued to talk about the legend of the secret chamber. It is said that Salazar Slytherin left the school after the quarrel. Before leaving school, Salazar Slytherin built a secret chamber in the castle that only he knew how to enter. At the same time, he also predicted that only his own heir could open it, and the heir would release a ferocious monster living in it to eliminate all Muggle-born students in the school. Wow! Everyone looked at the person who spoke, and it was Bernard, the only one of the 5 who could be said to be pure Muggle-born. There was a light in his eyes that was very familiar to the other 4. What would that ferocious monster be? It's really curious. What do you want to do? In the end, no one asked this question that they knew the answer to, but guessed along with Bernard's words. Mrs. Norris was petrified. I guess it could be Medusa. Cologne made a reasonable guess, and Eugene refuted it, but Medusa couldn't have lived so long. According to legend, that thing should have lived for 1,000 years, but the premise is that the monster that petrified Mrs. Norris was really left by Slytherin, right? Cologne put forward his own opinion. Maybe the murderer this time just borrowed the name of the secret chamber legend. He is not an heir at all, and the monster that petrified Mrs. Norris was not left by Slytherin. What you said makes sense, but how can a Medusa sneak into Hogwarts? Eugene's intuition told him that the murderer was really related to the legend, but he had no evidence. Last year, even a giant monster managed to sneak into Hogwarts. Just on this day last year, Cologne felt that this was a bit far-fetched. Professor Dumbledore would never allow Hogwarts to be invaded again and again, but he had a new idea. Maybe it wasn't a monster at all, but a wizard who used some dark magic. That kind of complete petrification state cannot be achieved by total petrification, and it is obviously some extremely dangerous magic. Anyway, that should be a dangerous guy, Bernard concluded. Why don't we? No, the other 4 said in unison. Bernard, suppress your strong curiosity. Okay, Adam sighed, stretched out his hand to grab Bernard's shoulder and let him look at him. Whether that thing is Medusa, a dark wizard, or something else, It is a very dangerous and deadly thing. If you are really bored, I will accompany you to the Forbidden Forest. Yes, yes, let's go to the Forbidden Forest, Cologne nodded in agreement, although he was still a little traumatized by the horror movie for the first time. For Bernard's safety, as long as Adam didn't go crazy and turn a dry well into dry well in the Forbidden Forest, he felt that he could still hold on. Although the Forbidden Forest was dangerous, they had experienced the most dangerous situation. It should not be more dangerous than accidentally entering the nest of the Acromantula. The thing that caused the petrification this time was unknown. The unknown was the most terrifying and dangerous. No, I won't mess around, Bernard sighed with some regret after breaking away from Adam's hand. Perhaps this was why Bernard was assigned to Hufflepuff instead of Gryffindor. He really listened to the advice and did not go to explore the monster in the secret room. On the contrary, Adam, who had persuaded Bernard before, set foot on the path to the Chamber of Secrets on this day. If I catch the basilisk in advance, will Harry be unable to defeat Voldemort due to lack of experience? Should I use 2 cards to leave him 1? Thinking of this, Adam suddenly came to his senses. That's not right. With my current growth rate, why would Voldemort let Harry fight? Although it is still a bit difficult for him to use the cards without cards now. The earth, water, wind and fire Clow cards can be used normally, and even the light and dark cards can be maintained for a few minutes. At this rate, Voldemort will come in 2 years. Adam will probably be able to let him choose a way to die. Then why let Harry go through 81 difficulties, killing his classmates, professors, godfather and himself, just to follow the trajectory of the original work? Although the original work is a great and touching story, from the perspective of the story, is the victory of the fish and the net being broken a very beautiful ending worth maintaining? Adam made a hasty calculation and found that if the original work develops, the casualties of his roommates are unknown, but at least half of the customers he has developed in the past year will be gone, the investment target will die, and 2 lovely and respectable professors will be gone. Oh, and Aries' little lovebird Hedwig will also be sacrificed. I don't know how they are getting along now. This is only based on the current data. Adam's loss will only be greater, not smaller. After adjusting the calculations in his mind, Adam took a breath of cold air. No, he couldn't accept this future. Change. Must change. It's better to kill Voldemort directly. As for the prophecy, let's talk about it later. If it doesn't work, we can think of a way. Maybe let Harry catch Voldemort first and then kill him. I just want to ask you whether Voldemort died in Harry's hands. Coming to the girls' bathroom on the 2nd floor, Adam gently waved the dark stick, and the magic of the ingot locked the door of the bathroom. The blockade of the ingot is all around, and the walls, windows, etc. are all inaccessible. The locked room can only be opened with the correct key, the sealing stick in the key state, otherwise it can only be opened by removing the magic. As for other methods, at least the unlocking spell can't open it. Adam tried it walking to the faucet with the snake mark. Adam summoned the card. Chapter 64 I conquered the basilisk. Adam doesn't speak Parseltongue. He could have asked Harry to say it once and then imitate it with the sound card, but that was a bit too deliberate. Not to mention that the Parseltongue that opened the Chamber of Secrets was almost obviously related to the Chamber of Secrets, so he decided to use the Clow Card's own way. The card of the card was a woman in ancient Chinese costume walking through a circular plane. The magic effect could make people temporarily lose their body to pass through tangible obstacles, such as walls. Using the card, Adam easily entered the pipe of the Chamber of Secrets. The smell of corpse decay spread in the pipe, and Adam felt that breathing became difficult almost as soon as he landed. Quickly summoning the wand to cover his head with a bubble head spell, Adam finally took a few deep breaths. This snake monster is really unhygienic. I'll have to brush its teeth and give it a bath when the time comes. Adam stretched out his hand, and a little light flew out from his palm. It was the magic of the light card, illuminating the dark pipe. There were bones all over the pipe, and it looked like almost all of them came from mice. There were also some slightly larger bones, but they were too fragmented to tell what kind of animal they were. Did the basilisk live for 1,000 years by eating these? Maybe there were some insects like cockroaches that didn't leave bones, and they could grow so big. Tisk, pitiful. It had lived for 1,000 years without having a good meal. There were some messy traces in the pile of bones, which should have been left by the basilisk when it passed through. Adam also found dozens of basilisk skins shed. This is a good thing. Put it away using the magic of the card bubble to wash the snake skin. Fold it and put it in the bag. Adam heard the sound of an object dragging on the ground. Did the basilisk find him coming? Or did the diary control Ginny to come over? Adam slowly dealt with the last snake skin, and when he turned around, he just met a basilisk that came out of the pipe. What? A powerful magic. Looking into the amber vertical pupils, Adam could not help but sigh as he felt the shield's protective magic being triggered. The basilisk, which had originally discovered an intruder entering its nest on the way to being summoned, was visibly stunned because it was surprised to find that the little thing in front of it did not die after staring at it. How is this possible? Roar! It roared like a normal snake, and launched an attack forward. It can't just hunt by sight. Bang! It felt like it had hit a high wall, and it immediately retreated a little dizzy, shaking its head and looking forward. The human kid had a shield in his hand that was almost as tall as the kid, and the decoration made of gold and rubies shone under the illumination of the surrounding light sources. A trace of doubt flashed in the basilisk's eyes. Both the human cub and the shield were too small for it. How could they block its attack just now? With a little more caution in his heart, the basilisk slowly moved its body and tried to attack from another direction. Adam held up the shield and looked at the basilisk and fell into thought. How can he defeat the basilisk without leaving too serious injuries to it? At the same time, at a pipe exit of Hogwarts, Ginny, who was controlled by Voldemort's soul fragment, was pacing back and forth in a somewhat irritable manner. When he passed by just now, he heard Myrtle crying that she couldn't enter the women's bathroom on the second floor. After rushing there, he found that it was blocked by a powerful magic, so he hurried here to summon the basilisk. It stands to reason that the basilisk should have come here long ago after hearing the order. Did Dumbledore really discover the secret there? It's impossible. Dumbledore is not a Parseltongue. Thinking so, Voldemort's soul fragment felt more and more unconfident. When he was created, Voldemort was not a terrifying name, and was not even well known. Others still called him Tom Riddle. Although he knew his future achievements in his communication with Ginny, Dumbledore, who he had to face, also became the greatest wizard of this century in the future, and he had not even regained his past power. No, he had to go. The basilisk was just a useful tool. If it was gone, it was gone. If he fell into Dumbledore's hands, it would be a loss. Having made up his mind, Voldemort's soul fragment controlled Ginny to say a few words in Parseltongue, and then turned around and left decisively. The basilisk was in a difficult situation at this time, but it was still fighting. It was turned into a slender one by Adam with a small card and held in his hand. Its strength became smaller, but its ferocity remained unchanged. It bit Adam's fingers with its teeth with deadly venom, but it could not break through the defense of the shield at all. Adam was also somewhat helpless. He was sure that the basilisk could understand human words and had responded to his words of persuasion, but unfortunately, they were not positive. What kind of magic potion did Salazar Slytherin give the basilisk? Or did he use some magic contract to restrain it? If it is really impossible to subdue it, the only way is to collect the basilisk, put it in an opaque container as a collection, and feed it a mouse from time to time. How about using 2 cards to see if the basilisk in the parallel world will surrender? Let's kill this basilisk and see how the stew tastes. The basilisk is afraid of the crowing of roosters, so why not try to make a dragon and a phoenix fight? However, just when Adam thought of this, the basilisk in his hand suddenly stopped struggling. Can the basilisk read minds? Impossible. Even if it can, his protective magic is still on. Curiously, Adam pinched a basilisk and slid it in front of his eyes, and found that the basilisk seemed to have been drained of strength and did not resist at all. Adam looked carefully for a while and found that the basilisk's eyes had lost their highlights, as if it had become a salted fish that had lost its dreams. What happened? Adam put the basilisk back in his palm and poked it with his fingers a few times. The basilisk finally reacted a little. It raised its head and hissed at Adam a few times, as if trying to negotiate with Adam. At this time, the importance of mastering multiple foreign languages is reflected, but the question is where to learn Serpent language? He remembered that Professor Dumbledore could understand Parseltongue. Forget it, since the other party's attitude has softened, I won't eat it first, I'll just keep it in a jar. Adam had already mastered the magic of the small card quickly through the shrinking spell. With a magic stone as the power source, there was no need to worry that the basilisk would suddenly return to its original size at some point, so Adam safely placed the shrunken basilisk in a glass candy jar, then wrapped it with layers of black gauze, and left 2 holes on the lid for breathing. After doing all this, Adam returned to the bathroom, first used the phantom card to hide his figure, then lifted the blockade of the ingot card, ran to an abandoned classroom with no one to restore his figure, and returned to the dormitory with a natural look on his face. No one knew that when Adam came back from going out this time, he had a monster hidden in the secret room in his pocket. Chapter 65, 50 Ways to Process, Cook, Horcruxes. After the basilisk is taken care of course the diary must also be taken care of. This is much easier to deal with than the basilisk. First, put a shield on Ginny, and then ask her to hand over the diary when she is awake. Ginny, who has been controlled, obviously knows that the diary is not a good thing, so she hands over the diary without hesitation. Gave it to Adam. Can you keep this diary a secret from me? Ginny's face was a little pale. It was because she was scared. Maybe it was because the diary had absorbed some of her vitality. I don't want my brothers to worry, and besides, Mrs. Norris, don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Adam had already established a reliable big brother image to Ginny through George and Fred. When he heard this, he showed a smile that fit everyone's imagined Hufflepuff characteristics, and at the same time handed out a honey-flavored candy. But I still recommend that you go see Madame Pomfrey. Just say that you have been too scared to sleep by the legend of the Chamber of Secrets recently. Thanks, I'll be there. Ginny took the candy and breathed a sigh of relief, then looked at Adam. What will you do with this diary? Of course I want to destroy it, but this thing doesn't seem to be destroyable by conventional means. I want to experiment. That's good. You must be careful not to be controlled. Ginny warned her a few more times before leaving, but since Adam could help her resist the control of the diary, there would be no problems, so she felt relieved when she left. Well, let me see, how resistant are the legendary Horcruxes? Adam looked at the diary in his hand and showed a curious expression. Unlike Harry and the others who used the basilisk venom back and forth, Adam had plenty of strength and means. Arriving at the familiar room of requirement again, Adam put the diary on the table and prepared a notebook next to it. The shorthand quill was now standing on the notebook, ready to move. Swish, swish, swish. As Adam's thoughts moved, the title of the experimental record was already written on his notebook. The testing of various characteristics of the Horcrux began. With the first experiment, physical resistance. To a certain extent, inanimate Horcruxes can exhibit the characteristic of being unable to be destroyed by physical means, but in that case the physical damage received is not great, so Adam is not sure whether Horcruxes are truly immune to physical damage. Still a little interested, Adam summoned the power card and looked at the diary eagerly. In the following period, Voldemort's Horcruxes were spent in Adam's inhumane magic experiments. The diary became thinner and thinner day by day, but the notebook recording the experimental process became thicker and thicker because Adam frantically added diagrams of the experimental results. Experiments have proven that most of the Clow Cards are effective against Horcruxes, and some are even more effective than others, such as the Gone card. Although it takes a little more magic than transforming ordinary items, a page of the diary was indeed transformed into a cloud cake. Together with his soul power above. In the end, Adam still didn't make up his mind to eat the piece of cloud cake and fed it to the basilisk. The results showed that the basilisk seemed to accept all kinds of human food well. During the experiment, writings appeared on the fragments of Voldemort's soul in the Horcrux more than once. From begging to threatening, and then from threatening to begging, Adam ignored them all until recently, perhaps because I gave up the struggle, perhaps because I lacked strength. In short, no words appeared in the diary. This made Adam a little disappointed. The unresponsiveness of the tortured object greatly reduced his emotional feedback. Of course, his main purpose was to conduct a serious exploration of magic and increase his knowledge of magic. That's right, the experiments on Horcruxes did increase Adam's magic power a lot, and also provided Adam with the opportunity to use most of the Clow Cards for one round. Seeing that there were only 4 pieces of paper left inside besides the cover, and the soul power on them was so thin that it was almost indistinguishable from the Horcruxes, Adam felt a rare sense of shame in his heart. There are actually 4 cards left that have not been used. It is such a waste. I quickly thought about whether there are any other experimental projects. However, before Adam could come up with new methods, the Quidditch match of this school year began at 11 o'clock at noon. Adam and his roommates went to the Quidditch pitch together. Adam, why have you been so elusive lately? You can't find anyone for a few hours every week. Are you in love? On the way, Uther looked at Adam, who had arrived late and was stuck in the spot to join everyone, and joked, I have no idea of falling in love yet. Adam shrugged. Most of his attention was now attracted by the beauty of magic. The social interactions with his family, roommates, and professors had already taken up the rest of his attention. It was difficult to leave a space for him. They did not continue with the topic of love. It was just a joke. After meeting more students, Everyone started discussing today's competition. It's Gryffindor vs. Slytherin again. Last year, Harry Potter was absent from the final battle and Gryffindor lost to Slytherin. This year, their captain seems to be holding his breath. The relationship between Cedric and Oliver is pretty good, or in other words, his relationship with most of the classmates in the school who can make friends normally is above the good baseline. Obviously, there is a lot of first-hand information, it's just that Malfoy joined Slytherin this year. Old Malfoy spent a huge sum of money to equip each team member with a Nimbus 2001. The outcome is still unknown. 1. Nimbus 2001 for each person. So rich, Ernie sighed with a sour feeling, and couldn't help but take a sip of honey water. Adam's food can heal people's hearts. Adam, who can earn a Quidditch team a year with his food that heals people's hearts, was lost in thought as he looked at the two teams that were already on the field. As we all know, Harry almost always encounters problems in his Quidditch matches every year. What was the problem this year? When Harry was once again chased by the Bludgers, and the classmates around him began to angrily denounce Slytherin for repeating the same old tricks, Adam clapped his hands. I remember it. What? Did you remember? Eugene, who did not join in the denunciation of Slytherin, turned to look at Adam. Oh, I remembered something I forgot before. Adam rubbed his face. How could he forget the house elf of the Malfoy family? What was the name of the house elf that was later free and then sacrificed? Gollum. Yoda? Oh, it seems to be Dobby. Now the basilisk has a good life of 3 full meals a day, occasional snacks, and a bath once a week. The Horcrux diary is still alive, but Dobby doesn't know it yet. It still thinks that old Malfoy wants to harm Harry Potter. It was also the one who made Harry drive the flying cart to school at the beginning of the school year. It blocked the magic of platform 9 3/4 and made Harry miss the departure time, eh? Thinking about it this way, it seems that the magic of house elves is also worth studying. Adam forgot what he was thinking just now under the inertia of long-term magic research, and began to think about academic problems in the air in front of him, the kind Dobby was trying to knock Harry off the flying broomstick 500 feet high with a high-speed flying quaffle for his safety. Chapter 66 The Greatest Invention in the Wizarding World. The cheers brought Adam's attention away from the house elves and back to reality. Seeing Harry falling from the air to the muddy ground after catching the golden snitch, Adam suddenly remembered something and hurriedly ran to the field with the crowd coming. In the second school year, and even in the entire 7 works, the greatest invention in the wizarding world, mixed among the Gryffindors surrounding Harry, Adam was satisfied to see Gilderoy Lockhart squeezing over with an excited look on his face. Leave it to me, don't worry, I have enough experience to handle this kind of thing. No wait, don't. Let me go to the hospital wing. Deaf to the noise in his ears, Adam watched Lockhart carefully, following the path of his wand while noting every syllable that came out of his mouth as the spell took effect. Harry's arm drooped as softly and bonelessly as a rubber hose-style character in a cartoon. All the bones in his arm had been ripped out. Bone removing curse. With this magic spell, what other techniques are needed to debone the whole chicken and debone the whole fish? This is called magic improving life. I don't know if the core of the fruit can be removed with this magic. Ha. Ha. There was a problem with this spell, but Lockhart still maintained a smile that said I succeeded and stood up awkwardly. Sometimes, yes, it does happen occasionally, but the broken bone is fine. Isn't it? Now, Harry, go to the hospital wing. Lockhart did not dare to look at Harry, whose eyes were full of anger and resentment, and looked at his friends surrounding him. Mr. Weasley, Miss Granger, please accompany Harry. Although they were extremely angry at Lockhart's behavior, Harry's safety was obviously more important now. The two of them glared at Lockhart and quickly picked up Harry and rushed to the hospital wing in a familiar way. Ouch! In a panic, Lockhart was kicked hard by someone. The protagonist of the game left the game early, and the final handshakes and other links ended hastily. Adam said goodbye to his friends again and came to an abandoned classroom alone. As a house elf, Dobby is elusive and has no fixed range of action. To find him, Adam has to use some special methods. For example, divination. There are many ways of divination in Clow Cards, such as using dream cards to predict dreams, using water cards to perform water divination, using tree cards to summon yarrow for divination, etc. However, the former is uncontrollable for divination, while the latter requires a certain professional foundation. The most suitable method of divination for Adam is to directly use the Clow Cards for divination. The Clow Cards combined with tarot cards are also a prop that can be used for divination. Shuffle the cards with your left hand, then divide the deck into 3 parts and mix them together. Note that you can only use your left hand to shuffle the Clow cards, Oak. And Sibby sat at two corners of the table and told Adam the specific process of divination. After shuffling, draw 10 cards according to your preference and place them in the 3x3 diamond array. Place the first one in the opposite corner, the second one in the corner facing you, the third one on the lower left, the fourth one on the lower right. After placing the Clow cards as the two said, Adam closed his eyes. The Clow card created by Clow. Please answer my question and tell me the location of the house elf Dobby. Magic power slowly flowed on the Clow card in front of him. Adam opened his eyes and turned over the Clow card at the top of the card array in front of him. Sibby said in a deep voice, "It's a land sign." The first card is a reminder, indicating that the opponent's position is related to the earth. To be honest, it is a bit useless. After all, what he is looking for is a position, and the earth card at most means that the opponent is not in the sky or in the water. Then there are 3 Clow cards in the middle row of the card array. These 3 Clow cards point to the specific content of the divination. Adam opened it from left to right. Peope, Ganpe, Ziope, Oak. Tilted his head. Where's this place, Dobby? Hiding in the Hogwarts kitchen. These 3 Clow cards are connected together, and Adam can hardly find a second answer besides the kitchen of Hogwarts. These seem to be enough, but Adam still completed the process and turned over the Clow card at hand in the lower right corner of the card array. This Clow card pointed to the next target of the divination object, a shield, protector, or a savior? It all makes sense, because he had a certain understanding of Dobby. Adam answered the divination results very smoothly. He put away the Clow cards and immediately headed to the kitchen, which was the place in Hogwarts that Adam was most familiar with besides the dormitories and the Hufflepuff common room place. Mr. Reed, how can I help you? As soon as he entered the kitchen, a passing house elf greeted Adam familiarly. Blue, I'd like to know if there have been any foreign house elves in the kitchen lately. After closing the door behind him, Adam looked around naturally and asked in a low voice to the house elf named Blue. Seeing this, Blue also lowered his voice. An alien house elf? Yes, Mr. Reed, a house elf did come to Hogwarts, and its little master is now attending school at Hogwarts. Blue seemed a little dissatisfied, thinking that this was questioning their ability to work, but his dissatisfaction did not mainly come from this. That guy is extremely lazy. He hasn't helped his little master clean up a few times since he came to Hogwarts. His master should. Okay. Blue, I know you've always been the hardest working one among you, Adam. Stop. Blue's complained. Blue raised his head proudly after hearing Adam's compliment, and Adam also took this opportunity to continue asking, where's that house elf now? Well, he just went out for a while and now he has just come back. He should be resting over the oak barrel. Hearing this, the staff of darkness in Adam's hand suddenly struck the ground. A huge magic circle enveloped the entire kitchen, and a large, somewhat illusory lock slowly disappeared in the air. Mr. Reed, Blue looked at Adam with some confusion. Take me to the barrel where he is. Okay. Although he didn't know what Adam was doing, Blue still chose to trust the student who had gained control of the entire kitchen and all the house elves. Several times the house elves at Hogwarts live in oak barrels, most from recent years, complete with butterbeer and 3 broomsticks. Logos. Dobby's oak barrel was squeezed in the corner. It was an old oak barrel with even the iron hoops climbing up to the rusty barrel. Adam walked to the oak barrel and heard a low snore coming from inside. Probably the previous act of casting spells on the bludger was also a big burden for Dobby. A lazy guy only deserves to live in an oak barrel like this. Look at this guy, he's still sleeping now. Blue Woozy explained to Adam a little indignantly. Without responding to Blue, Adam stretched out his hand towards the oak barrel, and the magic circle was formed in the palm of his hand in the blink of an eye. The sealing magic applied to the entire kitchen was restricted to the oak barrel, and then the oak barrel was floated up to Adam's side. Mr. Reed, where are you taking it? Blue couldn't help but said after seeing this scene. Adam glanced at Dobby, who was still sleeping deeply in the oak barrel next to him, and smiled slightly. I have something to ask him about. Chapter 67 Duel Club. The naive house elf didn't doubt Adam's words at all, and let Adam take Dobby away easily. Then Adam used the magic card to bring Dobby to the room of requirement openly. Get up. He tapped the oak barrel with the staff of darkness, and Dobby poked his head out of the barrel, his eyes brightening. It woke up on the way, but it was locked by the ingot and couldn't leave the oak barrel. Now that it can come out, doesn't it mean? Exclamation mark. However, The next moment, Dobby still stayed where he was. No need to try, the seal range has only expanded from the oak barrel to this room. After a few seconds of thinking, Dobby emerged from the oak barrel and bowed tremblingly towards Adam. "Dear sir, do you have anything to do with Dobby? The diary is now in my hands." Adam looked at Dobby and straight to the point took out the diary with only 4 pages left. After Dobby saw it, his big light bulb-like eyes widened even more. "So, now you don't have to protect Harry Potter anymore." Adam's mood was a little complicated when he said this. After all, Dobby's protection had only had the opposite effect so far. "Oh my God! Harry Potter is saved!" Dobby jumped on the spot a few times excitedly, and then suddenly cried. Dobby no longer has to disobey his master. Bad Dobby. Dobby is an incompetent house elf. As he spoke, Dobby banged his head against the floor. Adam was stunned. Only then did he remember that Dobby's release was actually a strange thing. Under the current situation, old Malfoy probably would not come to Hogwarts. In other words, Dobby, I will continue to work for the Malfoy family in vain, but the problem doesn't seem to be big. After all, he doesn't even think about liberating the oppressed people around the world, let alone liberating house elves, and he has no idea about Dobby. Dobby was indeed brave and did protect Harry when he died, but to be honest, Adam didn't like it. Its enthusiasm for Harry comes entirely from the story of Harry's savior. It betrayed its loyal master for the sake of an image in the story. After the betrayal, it just talked to itself and used the way it thought was good to protect its imagination. The savior seemed somewhat absurd to Adam. It is undeniable that Dobby and Harry established a deep friendship in the later period, but in the beginning, Dobby treated Harry like a bastard who wanted to protect his brother. After Dobby calmed down, Adam let him remember to go to Harry and explain everything he had done before, and then let him go. If Harry felt it was necessary, he might as well find a way to free Dobby himself. As for learning the magic of house elves, there are too many house elves in Hogwarts, and they live next door to the Hufflepuff dormitory. I believe they will be happy to help Adam since Dobby was eliminated. There were no abnormal safety hazards in the castle, and Adam and his school life could return to normal. Adam spent half a month thoroughly studying the bone-removing spell that Lockhart accidentally created, and transformed it into a magic circle version. This kind of magic has a certain degree in common with card elimination, but it is more targeted. Under the temptation of delicious food, Adam's research progress has been faster than ever. Now this spell can no longer simply be called a bone-removing spell. It can remove bones, scales, shrimp threads, snail shells, fruit cores, rotten leaves, solids and liquids, and all other things that the caster considers to be impurities. Yes, the effect of this magic is also very idealistic. For example, it can be considered that cartilage is not an impurity when it is released, so the cartilage will be retained. The same is true for the head and tail fin of the fish, and it will not make the fish change after the bones are removed. The strange shape affects appetite. Regarding this curse, Uther said absolutely after seeing it, and Cologne said it was wonderful after seeing it. Bernard quickly ordered a plate of roasted chicken legs from the kitchen. "Try it quickly." Adam stretched out his hand and touched the chicken leg. All the bones of the chicken leg disappeared, but the cartilage of the head and tail remained. Adam, with this magic you can even go down in history, Colin said excitedly while chewing on the chicken leg. Braised carp. Eugene was also very excited. Although he liked braised fish very much, the red color made him picky. Before, he could only try braised hairtail, but now he can finally have no taboos. Adam was also deep in thought, thinking about what new dishes to make next. Just before Hufflepuff ushered in a wave of carnival, Lockhart jumped out of trouble again. Perhaps he was dissatisfied with the fact that he was no longer the center of attention after seeing that the castle had been stable for so long, or perhaps it was because Adam was too busy studying spells to pay attention to him during this period, which gave him confidence. In short, Lockhart still figured it out. That dueling club. What made Adam even more unbelievable was that Professor Dumbledore actually agreed. Even if the old headmaster didn't know that Hogwarts was now safe, he wouldn't believe it if he killed Harry. The principal's control over the entire castle is quite terrifying. Portraits, ghosts, and even house elves are the principal's eyes and ears, not to mention various protective magics that may have other functions. So why did Professor Dumbledore let Lockhart do whatever he wanted here? With doubts, Adam followed the crowd to the so-called duel club. It was called the dueling club, but in fact, the hall was tidied up. The long tables that originally belonged to the 4 colleges were moved away, and a fancy dueling platform was built in the center. It did look a bit formal, but it looked more like a stage with various floral decorations. At this much anticipated moment, Gilderoy Lockhart walked onto the stage. He wore a purple robe today, shining brightly under the candlelight of hundreds of candles in the air, and Professor Snape followed him. His face was so gloomy that Adam recalled the time when he drew Harry in the lottery walking to the center of the stage with a leaping step. Lockhart waved his hand to let everyone be quiet, and then shouted, "Come around, come around. Can everyone see me? Can everyone hear my voice?" Ah, great, Lockhart had that iconic smile on his face. "It's like this. Professor Dumbledore allowed me to open this little duel club to fully train everyone in case you need to defend yourself one day, and take the way I have used countless times to protect yourself. For details in this regard, please see my published works." After advertising his own work, Lockhart raised his hand and motioned everyone to look at Professor Snape beside him. "Let me introduce my assistant, Professor Snape." I invited him to guide everyone with me. In addition, he also recommended a little assistant to me and refused to provide me with more information. What an interesting little surprise, isn't it? Chapter 68, A True Warrior. After hearing Lockhart's words, Adam suddenly had a bad premonition for some reason in particular. Professor Snape actually looked a little better at this time and even glanced at him. I have to say that Lockhart does have something. After Adam had no time to talk to him, he just relied on his words to win back some of his original die-hard fans. These words still attracted a wave of applause. Thank you for your encouragement. How about we invite a little assistant here?" Lockhart winked at Professor Snape narrowly, as if he had a good relationship with Professor Snape. Professor Snape's face tensed up for a moment, then revealed a somewhat gloomy smile. "Adam Reed, Adam, I? Exclamation mark. No one told me there would be an extra show today." Just when Adam was stunned, Professor Snape looked at him again. "Come here quickly, don't be shy. Relax." "Adam, where are you?" Lockhart had no doubts about him. Although he had suspected that someone was plotting against him, he had not doubted these students at all. After all, how could a student have any powerful abilities? Because of this, when Professor Snape said that he wanted a student to practice sparring with him instead of him, he agreed without hesitation, and even felt that it was exactly what he wanted. A student was always much easier to deal with than a professor under everyone's gaze. Adam silently walked onto the duel stage and looked at Professor Snape beside him. "Relax, Professor." Snape's expression remained unchanged. He raised his hand and patted Adam's shoulder gently, his voice almost inaudible. "Just use the spell I taught you. You know which one it is." The corners of Adam's mouth twitched. "You taught me 2 spells in total. One is the upside-down golden bell and the other is the divine edge. There is a big difference between these 2 spells. Can you tell me which one to use?" Seeing Adam walking onto the duel stage, Lockhart's expression was a little unnatural. The painful memory of being bitten into the hospital wing by the Chinese biting cabbage suddenly came to his mind. He doesn't take roll call in class, and the previous class process was quite bumpy, so that he still can't associate the names of students with specific students. He didn't know who Adam was until he saw Adam on stage, but Lockhart quickly adjusted his mentality. Although the previous experience was painful, it was a magic arranged in advance, and it did not prove that the student was very strong. Just take advantage of this opportunity. "Come here, kid, I won't hurt you. Just relax and follow the procedure." Lockhart waved to Adam with a smile on his face. Professor Snape patted Adam on the shoulder and went down, leaving Adam and Lockhart on the duel stage. First, Mr. Reed and I came to both sides of the duel stage, and then we bowed. "Yes, that's right." After bowing, Lockhart turned the wand in his hand a few times and slowly planned to speak. "Remove the upside-down golden bell, tisk, wow, znin." The eyes of all the students in amazement, Adam looked at Lockhart, who was hanging upside down in the air with an innocent face. "Professor, can't you take action after bowing?" Lockhart's face turned red, probably due to congestion in his brain. Anyway, he was silent for a few seconds before speaking. Yes, of course I know this. I just want to demonstrate it to everyone. Your offensive intention is too obvious. Of course I wouldn't be able to fall for such a trick in a real duel." Adam nodded and glanced at Professor Snape, who just took advantage of the chaos and let out a tisk. He seemed to have been mistaken. But was Shen Feng Wu Ying a bit too much? What if the Bloodthorn screamed and frightened the classmates? What should we do? In contrast, he still preferred the scripted killing he had prepared for Lockhart before. killing without blood. Lockhart struggled for a moment in the sky and began to tell everyone about his previous experience of dueling with dark wizards and the process of defeating a certain former dueling champion. He occasionally gave himself a curse or something else that Adam had never heard of. The curse finally, Lockhart, whose eyesight began to turn black, smiled awkwardly at Adam. Mr. Reed, I want to test how well you have learned the counter curse of this curse. Of course I am not incapable of this curse. I have seen this little trick several times during my travels. I have not yet learned the counter curse to this curse, Professor. Adam suddenly spoke, with an innocent look on his face that belongs exclusively to good little Badger, so you'd better come down by yourself. Lockhart's face turned redder, even a little purple. Yeah, I'll come down right then. Hey, after flapping a few times in the air like a fish being hooked, Lockhart looked at his classmates and showed a weak smile. There seems to be something wrong with my wand. Can anyone help me contact Pomfrey? Someone. Under the shocked gazes of his classmates, Lockhart tilted his head and fainted, with foam even coming out of his mouth. Hurry up and save him. Quiet, Professor. Snape, who walked onto the stage, waved his wand, and Lockhart fell down with a snap. Adam seemed to hear a sound similar to a fracture, and hoped that everything was okay on the dueling stage. Glancing at Lockhart, Professor Snape was in a good mood. He glanced at the students in the audience and said in a long voice, "It seems that your Professor Lockhart has been seriously injured again. I'm afraid the matter of the duel club will have to be postponed. Go back." No. Wait a minute. I'm fine. Under the shocked eyes of the crowd, Professor Snape's eyelids twitched. Lockhart struggled to get up. His face was still a little red, but he still smiled with difficulty. It's okay. It was just a small accident just now. I was not injured. I'm fine, Professor. Lockhart, Adam spoke with mixed feelings. This is a real warrior. He rarely brought a little respect in his tone. Why don't you go to the medical wing to have a look? Look at your red eyes and the blood flowing from your nostrils. Don't die on this duel stage. Don't worry. I'm fine. I'm fine. I've encountered more than once during my travels situations that are much more difficult than this. I mean the wand failed. Lockhart held the wand and tried to do some fancy moves, but the wand flew out of his hand halfway. He ran over and picked up the wand without changing his expression. Just a demonstration. The next is the formal duel. We are going to show you a real formal duel. Let's first set the process. Lockhart didn't want to experience the taste of being hung upside down again, so he said, "We will bow first, and then use Expelliarmus together. You should know the spell, right?" Lockhart breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Adam nodded in order not to be hit by any strange spells again. He just thought of this method of everyone using the same spell. It's just that Expelliarmus is one of the few spells he can use skillfully. If Adam says he doesn't know it, that would be bad. He can't compete with Adam in using the Oblivion spell, right? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, Lockhart, a man of strong body and weak mind, bowed to each other again on the dueling stage. Lockhart was already full of confidence. He admitted that he had underestimated his opponent before, and the opponent's strange little spells were also quite good, but when he got serious, a student tutored by a potion professor, could he be stronger than him? Expelliarmus. A red light streaked across the center of the dueling stage, and hit Lockhart all the way to the wall behind him. Lockhart's eyes widened, his lips trembling, and he stuck to the wall for at least 3 seconds before slowly sliding down the wall to the ground, and fell forward with a slap, forming a posture of sitting on the ground. Lockhart's wand spun in the air and flew into Adam's hand. At this time, Adam suddenly seemed to remember something and added, "Expelliarmus, classmates. Cool. So cool." Bernard's eyes lit up, and he was the first to start applauding. Then Adam's other roommates came to their senses and started to applaud, followed by the Hufflepuffs, and then the other colleges. After 3 crisp and short applause, Professor Snape walked to the center of the dueling arena. Very exciting duel. Now, unfortunately, your Professor Lockhart has been seriously injured again, specially. Putting an emphasis on the word again, Professor Snape glanced at Lockhart, as if to confirm that the other party would not suddenly get up again, this time after 3 seconds. Professor Snape withdrew his gaze as if nothing had happened. As for the dueling club, when saying this, Professor Snape's eyes happened to sweep over Harry, and the words paused, and then naturally connected. I will take your Professor Lockhart to the hospital wing first, and after returning, I will divide you into groups and practice in pairs. The students were excited all of a sudden. Although Professor Lockhart played very badly just now, Adam played handsomely. Who had replaced the bad side? Moreover, many of them had the opportunity to cast a spell on others for the first time, so they were very excited. During the time between my departure and my return, you'd better behave yourself and ensure that there won't be any accidents here, that I don't want to see. Otherwise, seeing the excitement of his classmates, Professor Snape showed a smile that calmed everyone down, and then waved his wand at Professor Lockhart. Zombie floating. Professor Snape left the auditorium with Professor Lockhart, who was lying dead, and the auditorium suddenly became lively after a few seconds. Oh my god, Adam, that was so cool just now. Putting away his wand, Adam returned to his friends and was surrounded by everyone. What spell did you use before? I don't think it was taught in class. That was taught to me by Professor Snape, and it seems to be a spell he invented himself. Adam looked at Colin and explained, invented it yourself? Oh my god, Cologne was full of amazement. Can Expelliarmus beat people like that? How did you do it? Uther was very curious about the Expelliarmus move, and Adam smiled slightly. Practice makes perfect. It was the strike card. He added the strike card because the attack method of the strike card is to release a laser-like attack, which looks very similar to many spells of wizards. Adam specially studied it, and unexpectedly it can be perfectly compatible with most spells, such as the Expelliarmus just now. You thought it was just magic damage? In fact, this spell also comes with physical impact on the teeth. I didn't expect, Adam, that you can master the silence spell so early. It's really amazing. Cedric sighed about the silence spell. It actually depends on talent. Adam scratched his head, and didn't think how shocking his ability to perform the silence spell was in the wizarding world. The silence spell is just a more advanced spellcasting technique. Many wizards can do it. Professor McGonagall and Professor Snape are proficient in this technique, but they don't use it very often. At most, they just take a break in things like pulling curtains. The wizards who can cast spells without a wand are truly amazing. The wand is equivalent to a regulator of magic power. Except for the extremely low spell mastery in Africa due to poverty, but the average person can cast spells without a wand. No one in the world who can cast spells without a wand is simple, including their beloved Professor Dumbledore. Next, everyone will be divided into groups to fight. Who do you plan to team up with? Didn't Professor Snape say that he would be the one to assign them? Professor Snape probably doesn't have time to group everyone. He probably won't object to you if we find teammates ourselves. Well, that's true. But think about it, it always feels a bit dangerous to fight with Adam. Cologne touched his chin and analyzed calmly. Then, I'll be in a group with Adam. Bernard volunteered, but then looked at Adam and said, but Adam, don't knock me out too. Don't worry, I'll be your sparring partner. While the two were talking, Uther found Cedric as his teammate, and Ernie found Hannah. Then, I'll be in a group with Eugene. Cologne stood on tiptoe and patted Eugene's shoulder. Hey, Eugene, have you grown taller in the past few months? Really, isn't it normal for us to still grow taller at our age? That makes sense. Colin nodded and considered the dietary differences between him and Eugene. Can eating more fish make you taller? Then should he eat more fish? Anyway, Adam has developed a magic spell that can remove fish bones. Well, he will also eat more fish next. Professor Snape returned not long after, and surprisingly, he was followed by Lockhart, who had a splint around his neck. Adam couldn't help but gasp when he saw Lockhart again. What does it mean to have a strong body but a weak will? Oh no, what does it mean to have a weak body and a strong will? What is perseverance? What is dedication and dedication? In your previous life, you had to buy hot searched meat when you had a cold and broken skin. Let's learn from it. He really made me cry to death. Ahem, Madame Pomfrey said I only suffered some minor injuries. It seems that these years of adventure have given me a good body. Ahem, Lockhart could barely keep his smile from the pain that spread throughout his body when he coughed. Seeing that Adam seemed to be about to step onto the duel stage again, he quickly said, I won't continue to demonstrate to you next. Professor Snape told me before that he was going to divide you into groups. Why don't we do it together, Professor? Snape nodded silently, first walked in the direction of Gryffindor, took Harry out, and then pulled Draco on, so that the two of them formed a team. It was Lockhart who organized them into groups. He saw that Adam didn't even want to go this way. After knowing that they had been divided into groups, he quickly agreed and fled around them quickly. After being divided into groups, Lockhart dragged his sick body onto the duel stage and looked at his classmates. What are you waiting for? It's time to start. As soon as he finished speaking, the whole auditorium suddenly resounded with a sound of chanting curses one after another. Professor Snape suddenly frowned. Stop. From this sound, one could see the majesty that Professor Snape had accumulated in his daily life. The sound of chanting the curse suddenly stopped, and the subsequent wailing sounds suddenly became very prominent. I really wonder if what you usually bring with you to charms class is your brain, or did you forget where you put your brain before going to class, so you just stuffed a flower caterpillar into your empty head? Professor Snape gritted his teeth and gave emergency treatment to the students who were injured because he or his teammates accidentally cast the spell, and then sent them to the hospital wing. After returning, Professor Snape, with a gloomy face, carried Harry and Draco to the duel stage and asked them to demonstrate for everyone. But, I can't disarm you, Harry had a look of resistance on his face. It's okay, Mr. Potter. Professor Snape's gloomy face finally showed some joy, and he seemed to enjoy Harry's current situation. You can use any magic you know how to do. Chapter 70 Parseltongue. Any magic he knows? Does the levitation charm count? After hearing what Professor Snape said, Harry felt his eyes go dark, but Professor Snape didn't care about that. He took them to the dueling arena and waved his cloak to the side. You can bow to each other. Draco bowed to Harry with a malicious smile on his face, raised his hand and cast a curse. Dragon out of the hole. A black snake fell to the ground in the smoke and slowly crawled towards Harry. Harry froze in place, staring at the snake. This seems to be some kind of summoning spell, but what's the use of summoning a snake? Uther touched his chin and tilted his head. He could see that it was a real snake, but even if it was a trained snake, it was just a snake. Ice freezing, fast imprisonment, petrification, any simple spell could solve it. This spell can only bully young wizards who have not learned many spells, but it takes a lot of effort to train snakes not to attack the caster, and it is impossible to train them to lock on to the target and attack, so the actual combat effect is really worrying. Facts have proved that even if the dragon is out of the hole, it is not very useful, but it has indeed frightened Harry now. Don't move, let me deal with it, Professor Snape was obviously pleased with Harry's reaction, but he didn't really want Harry to be bitten, so he walked forward while talking slowly. No problem, let me deal with it. Lockhart finally found a chance to show off. How could he let Professor Snape, even if he couldn't even beat the students? It's impossible that he couldn't even beat a snake, right? Lockhart rushed forward in a flash, waved his wand and made a set of extremely complicated movements, and recited a difficult-to-distinguish spell. It's a pity that Lockhart successfully cast a spell, but the attack power of this spell is a bit low. The snake that was hit rolled a few times on the duel stage, stood up and crawled towards Lockhart angrily. Lockhart swallowed his saliva in embarrassment and stepped back quickly. Okay, I was wrong. This spell can actually be used to deal with some unlearned adult wizards. Uther covered his face and sighed. Professor Snape silently retreated to his original place and put the half-pulled wand back, being stared at by a snake that looked very poisonous. Lockhart was a little panicked and stopped pretending to be cool. He waved his wand and recited the spell, Expelliarmus. The poisonous snake that was hit by the red light and fell to the ground fluttered on the ground a few times and soon climbed up again. What kind of monster is this? Lockhart exclaimed at the sight, and Draco spoke silently at this time. It's just an ordinary snake. Professor, are you trying to take away its fangs by using Expelliarmus? Facing Draco's somewhat contemptuous look, Lockhart was extremely angry. He got angry for a while, and then hurriedly said, My wand doesn't seem to have recovered yet, so let's return the stage to Mr. Potter. After that, he hurriedly left the duel stage. When he was going down the stairs, Lockhart seemed to be tripped by something and fell headfirst to the ground. Adam retracted his hand and looked at the duel stage with concern. So, Mr. Potter, what are you going to do? Professor Snape narrowed his eyes and looked at Harry, who was stared at by the snake again. Harry didn't know if it was his illusion. He always felt that Professor Snape's mood seemed to have become much worse. No one can save him now. Harry watched the snake getting closer and closer to him, and suddenly opened his mouth as if he had an idea. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The smile on Professor Snape's lips disappeared all of a sudden, and his eyes stared at Harry intently. The next moment, he pulled out his wand and turned the snake into a puff of smoke. I'm going to take Professor Lockhart to the hospital wing again. The duel club ends here, and you can go back, Professor. Snape waved his wand to float Lockhart up, and said to the young wizards who were still in shock Lockhart was originally lying on the steps between the duel stage and the floor of the auditorium, groaning, and heard this, as if trying to prove that he didn't need to go to the hospital wing at this moment. Professor Snape's wand happened to move accidentally, and Lockhart followed it with a 1080-degree roll in the air, and suddenly there was no sound. After dealing with Lockhart, the students were still discussing Harry's behavior and were unwilling to leave. Professor Snape narrowed his eyes. I say, you can go back. The little wizards immediately scattered and returned to their respective common rooms. Did you all see it? Cologne exclaimed in a low voice on the way back. Harry was talking to the snake just now. What's wrong with talking to the snake? Adam talks to his cat every day. Bernard pointed at Adam. Adam, meow meow meow. That's different. Cologne was about to say that Adam was just teasing the cats and the cats didn't understand, but then he thought that the two cats seemed to understand. The ability to talk to snakes is very special and rare in the wizarding world. It's an ability called Parseltongue. Eugene took over the conversation to explain to Bernard, not only can you talk to snakes, Parseltongue can even command snakes to a certain extent, but that's not the point. The point is that Slytherin is a Parseltongue, and Parseltongue can be inherited, so the heir of Slytherin must also be a Parseltongue. That's right. Bernard looked stunned, and then some thoughts flashed in his eyes. Will the boy who lived, the legendary savior, be the heir to open the Chamber of Secrets? For Bernard, who has been secretly reading the case materials handled by his parents since he was a child, it is not impossible for a good person in everyone's eyes to be secretly dirty, no matter how dirty he is. Hey, I'm a little hungry after being active for a long time. What can I have for midnight snack? After hearing Adam's words, Bernard threw all his thoughts out of his mind for a moment. Why don't you eat the tiger skin and chicken feed that you made last time? Not to mention the discussion about late-night snacks in Adam's dormitory. The news that Harry was a Parselmouth quickly spread throughout the campus, even overshadowing Lockhart's repeated embarrassment last night. However, at noon the next day, things suddenly changed. Adam was having lunch in the auditorium, and Ernie came up behind him with a curious look on his face. Adam, who is the heir to the Chamber of Secrets? Adam raised his head in confusion. The heir to the Chamber of Secrets? How do I know? Oh, stop pretending. Harry said that you have dealt with all the monsters in the Chamber of Secrets. You must also know who the heir to the Chamber of Secrets is, right? Ernie lowered his voice and said, you tell me secretly, I will never tell anyone else. Harry? How did he know? Damn. Dobby. Adam immediately understood the cause and effect, glanced at the little wizards around him with their ears pricked up, and his eyelids twitched. I believe you. Why? Do you just believe what Harry says? Adam tried to reason with everyone. Well, I think he was quite sincere. Ernie scratched the back of his head. What he said was false. That can't be said. If Harry showed Parseltongue himself and was mistaken for the heir, it would have nothing to do with Adam. But now that Adam is saying that Harry is lying, it becomes Adam's slander and desperation. Adam spoke. Okay, the heir to the Chamber of Secrets is Mr. Reed. I hope you don't mind joining me for lunch, Professor. Dumbledore emerged from nowhere, looked at Adam with a smile and said, Chapter 71 Conversation in the Principal and Number 039's office. Of course, Professor Dumbledore. Adam was taken away by Professor Dumbledore, and the interested little wizards around him dispersed in disappointment. So, Adam really solved the monster in the Chamber of Secrets. Cologne's face was 3 parts confused, 3 parts puzzled, and 4 parts enjoyment. Well, he was still eating cornflakes. I'm afraid so. If Harry Potter was lying, Adam would have said it just now. Eugene recalled that Adam always couldn't find anyone intermittently before, and said, and if it wasn't true, Professor Dumbledore wouldn't have come just now. Adam actually left us to adventure in the Chamber of Secrets. Bernard looked regretful. I'm afraid that's not an adventure story worth sharing. Recalling the records of the secret chambers in the pyramid, Uther squinted and said, then looked around. Let's go back to the dormitory and wait for Adam after breakfast. It seems that they may not be able to restrain their curiosity and come to ask us in a while. Adam followed Professor Dumbledore to the principal's office, where Professor McGonagall, Professor Snape and Professor Sprout were all there, eh? Why didn't you bring Professor Flitwick to play with you? Then Adam also saw Harry, who was looking down and didn't dare to look at him. Adam, is what Harry said true, Professor? Sprout saw Adam coming, hurriedly walked to Adam, took his hand, and looked Adam up and down carefully. Sorry, Adam, I didn't know. Would bring you so much trouble. Harry's voice was not loud to begin with, and it got lower and lower as he spoke. He said it in a hurry to prove his innocence, and only realized the impact of his words when he saw everyone going to Adam to verify. Adam didn't hear what Harry said. He first wanted to comfort the anxious teen in front of him. Professor Sprout, it's true, but that's all been solved. Oh, yes, our Mr. Reed can even solve the monster in the Chamber of Secrets, and defeated a professor last night. What else in the world can make him feel afraid, Professor? Snape's voice sounded, making Adam couldn't help but want to complain. Defeating the professor last night was the job you took on for me, Professor. However, he also knew that this was Professor Snape's indirect concern, asking him not to be stubborn and take risks, so he swallowed the complaints that were about to come out of his throat. Severus, don't say that, Professor. McGonagall was originally standing next to Harry, but now she walked to Adam. Adam, I don't mean to question whether you are lying, but what was the monster you solved? I mean, maybe it was some other magical animal, but you just thought it was a basilisk, Professor. Adam's answer made Professor McGonagall's next word stuck in her throat. Basilisk, also called the Snake King. The venom can kill a person instantly, and looking into the eyes of a basilisk can directly kill, Professor. Snape narrowed his eyes and gave Professor McGonagall a hint, who had not remembered a basilisk for a while. Unlike little Potter, with his understanding of Adam's character, although this matter sounded as outrageous as Merlin's resurrection, Adam should not talk nonsense casually. But if it was a basilisk, why was the cat just petrified before? So, that's it. Mrs. Norris saw the reflection of the basilisk on the knight's armor, so she was just petrified. Professor Dumbledore, whose presence had decreased after entering the principal's office, suddenly realized and solved everyone's doubts. Only Harry was still confused. But there hasn't been a basilisk in Britain for more than 400 years, Professor. Sprout was still a little confused. The basilisk has been dormant in the Chamber of Secrets. It really didn't appear in 400 years. It has lived for 1,000 years, Adam explained. But how did you do it? And how did you know it was a basilisk, Professor? McGonagall finally found her voice. And why didn't you tell us, but went to deal with such a terrible thing alone, Professor? McGonagall, please let me answer your questions one by one. Adam stretched out his hand and summoned the dark staff in the surprised eyes of everyone in the principal's office. First of all, how did I do it? I relied on the magic prop passed down by my ancestors, Professor. Dumbledore's eyes flashed with doubt. Why didn't he know that Nicholas Flamel had such a magic prop? But with Adam's explanation, the doubt in Professor Dumbledore's eyes disappeared. It turned out that it was the ancestors in China. Although the existence of the Clow Cards was not concealed, there was no detailed explanation on the Clow Cards. After using the magic props inherited from the ancestors as a shield for combat power, Adam continued, as for how it was discovered, do you professors know Moaning Myrtle, Professor? Dumbledore's eyes flashed. Moaning Myrtle was once a student. Adam explained that he had combined the fact that he had heard from his classmates that the Chamber of Secrets had been opened, the story of Moaning Myrtle, and the discovery of the spider's corpse in the castle to form a guess. The monster in the Chamber of Secrets was a basilisk. How did you guess that, Harry? Murmured with his eyes wide open. The professors knew the characteristics of the basilisk, but Harry didn't, so Harry couldn't understand how these conditions led to this result. Turning a deaf ear to Harry's questions, Adam continued, finally, why didn't I tell the professors? As I said just now, I was just guessing. Plus, I was confident that I could deal with a basilisk, so I went by myself. After hearing the entire explanation, the professors fell silent. Although the storyline Adam told is a bit outrageous, it seems that there is nothing wrong with it. So, leaving aside how you heroically defeated the basilisk in the end, who opened the Chamber of Secrets, Professor Snape crossed his arms over his chest and squinted his eyes. That person must know the situation in the secret room very well. He must also have known that there is a basilisk in the secret room and knows how to deal with it, Professor Sprout seemed to understand something, and immediately glared at Professor Snape, stretched out his hand to hug Adam into his arms. Severus, what do you mean, knowing that Professor Snape meant something different, even if he believed that he would habitually say something to himself out of worry and fear? Adam secretly sighed, and then made a gesture to Professor Dumbledore and Professor Sprout's arms. With a glance, Professor Dumbledore suddenly understood and said, Severus, stop your speculation. We should indeed be vigilant, but we cannot doubt a student for no reason. With that said, Professor Dumbledore stood up. Okay, so now most of the things seem to be clear. Let Adam and I talk about the remaining details while having lunch. Everyone, please go back. Maybe you have classes to prepare for in the afternoon, although the professors were not very happy. Since Professor Dumbledore said so, they still left the principal's office one by one, and Professor McGonagall also took Harry with her. Okay, it's just the two of us here now, Professor. Dumbledore winked at Adam. What do you want to eat for lunch? It's better for me to do it. Adam waved the wand of darkness directly, and a plate of hot brownie-flavored pizza appeared on the table. Then he looked at Professor Dumbledore, whose eyes lit up, and said, Professor, what do you want to eat for lunch? Chapter 72 The Magic of Love. Chew, 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 swallow. After finishing the last apple cinnamon pie, Professor Dumbledore finished listening to Adam's story and saw the diary with only 4 pages left. Looking at the pitiful diary, Professor Dumbledore suddenly sighed. Tom, have you ever thought that the Horcrux you created by killing a life would one day be so fragile? What's wrong, Professor Dumbledore? It's okay, I just thought of something, Professor. Dumbledore shook his head and began to answer the question Adam asked him. This diary is supposed to be a Horcrux, an extremely evil black magic item that must be killed to make it. That's why it has such strong magic resistance. Speaking of this, Professor Dumbledore couldn't help but move his eyebrows. In fact, most of the methods in this world cannot cause harm to it. Otherwise Voldemort would not hesitate to cut his soul in order to make Horcruxes. Unfortunately, Voldemort's Horcrux met Adam while sighing. Professor Dumbledore suddenly remembered the basilisk. If he remembered correctly, the evil magic power of the basilisk was enough to destroy Horcruxes. Is the basilisk's body still in the secret room? Oh, no, it's not dead yet. It's good that you're not dead, huh, Professor? Dumbledore's eyes widened as he watched Adam take out a dark round container from his shoulder bag. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a glass jar wrapped in black cloth. I shrunk the basilisk and captured it. It's right here, Adam said as he opened its lid and the gauze and took a look. It's sleeping now, Professor. Dumbledore opened his mouth and felt that his head was a little hard to turn around for a moment. Professor, do you want to see it? No, Professor. Dumbledore finally figured it out. You shrunk the basilisk. Yes, the basilisk's strength has also decreased, and now even a glass jar can seal it tightly, Professor. Dumbledore wanted to say that the basilisk's skin has magic resistance that is almost as good as that of the dragon, but considering that the magic resistance of the Horcrux is much stronger than that of the basilisk and the dragon, he did not say anything on this issue. Just looking at the black jar, he hesitated to speak. Adam, I have to remind you that raising a basilisk is illegal. Professor, I checked the wizard's laws. It is illegal to breed basilisks, but it is not illegal to raise basilisks. Adam blinked at Professor Dumbledore. So as long as I can prove that I did not breed this basilisk, I will not violate the wizard's laws. Okay, you're right, Professor. Dumbledore was silent for a moment after recalling, but keeping such a dangerous animal on campus. Professor Dumbledore, this basilisk is already in its safest state in my hands. Should I let it out? Or should I kill it? Although it once killed a person, wasn't it a mysterious man's instigation? Adam looked at Professor Dumbledore sincerely, trying to awaken Professor Dumbledore's teacher-student love. Beyond that, all it's done since birth is sleep in Hogwarts for nearly 1,000 years. It's almost as big as Hogwarts and has witnessed the history of Hogwarts. Looking into Adam's eyes, although Legilimency found nothing, Professor Dumbledore could see the pure love for magical animals, which reminded him of an old friend. If the other party were here, they would probably try to protect this basilisk, and after all, Adam is just a student, a Hufflepuff, and the heir of Nico Flamel, and he has just saved the school, so what bad intentions can he have? In the end, Professor Dumbledore relented. Okay. But you must ensure that no student will be injured by this basilisk's attack, even if it is petrified. Of course I can, Professor. Adam smiled and put away the basilisk jar, then looked at Professor Dumbledore. "By the way, Professor, I read in the book that although you were not born a Parselmouth, you learned the language of snakes through acquired learning. Is that so, Professor?" Dumbledore blinked, understanding what Adam wanted to do. "But I have to say that this is actually a good idea. At least being able to communicate with a basilisk will only allow Adam to take better care of the basilisk." After thinking for a moment, Professor Dumbledore stretched out his hand, and a book on the bookshelf floated into Professor Dumbledore's hand. "This is a book about snake language and mermaid language. I hope you will remember to return it to me after you finish learning it. Of course, don't tell your classmates what you said in the principal's office today. If they insist on asking, just say that I asked you to keep it secret." "No problem, Professor, but," Adam recalled for a moment and said, "Harry seems to have heard a lot. I'll let Minerva tell him." Professor Dumbledore sighed. "So, that's pretty much it." Finally, after a pause, Professor Dumbledore showed a smile on his face. 200 points for Hufflepuff for getting rid of the basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets in time before anyone suffered misfortune. Adam was a little surprised, but he found that he didn't need to be so surprised. It would be strange if Professor Dumbledore didn't give him extra points. Although it seemed a bit stiff for Harry to give Gryffindor extra points at the end of each year, it must be said that the things he did were indeed worth extra points. Otherwise, how could other professors sit and watch Professor Dumbledore's performance? However, Professor Dumbledore's performance was not over yet. For solving the truth of the case that year, Hufflepuff gets 50 points. "I thank you for your feat on behalf of Myrtle and Hagrid, who was framed that year. It seems that a medal in the trophy display room should be cleared out." "This is what I should do, Professor." Professor Dumbledore smiled and nodded. "Don't forget to keep these things confidential, and pay attention to your little pet. Go." After leaving the principal's office, Adam counted his gains today. First of all, the existence of the Clow Cards and his knowledge of Horcruxes were made public, so that his spellcasting, which was not concealed, could be more open and above board, and the Ravenclaw crown obtained from the Room of Requirement could also be arranged. The second thing is about the basilisk. Professor Dumbledore gave me a book on learning snake language, and also gave mermaid language as an extra gift, which was an unexpected gain. The last thing is to test the magic of the love card. Sure enough, this love card that has been in effect is very powerful. This is also the effect of the love card that Adam accidentally discovered. The love card can subtly influence the people around him. For people who have a certain emotional foundation with themselves, the love card is probably equivalent to a halo that rationalizes things. The effect is proportional to the depth of emotion and the degree to which the other party is affected by emotional factors. Even if it is such an outrageous thing to raise a basilisk in school, Professor Dumbledore actually agreed. It seems that Professor Dumbledore is really emotional. Originally, Adam thought that at most he would be shaken. He was ready to sacrifice this basilisk. Now it seems that another basilisk can be put into the pot. Make basilisk soup or dragon and phoenix fight. Coming back from the food, Adam's attention returned to the love card. The effect of the love card he has discovered so far is not just affecting the people around him. Chapter 73 Lockhart becomes restless again. In addition to affecting the people around him, Adam discovered another ability of the card of love, which was a bit magical. How to say it? He didn't know exactly what this ability was used for, but the somewhat illusory figure with red hair and green eyes that he could see beside Harry should not be the effect of other Clow Cards. After excluding them, it must be the ability of the card of love because there was only this abnormality at present. Adam couldn't test what happened specifically and what this ability was, so he could only put this question aside for the time being. On the way back to the dormitory, Adam was asked about the Chamber of Secrets by his classmates countless times, and Adam had only one answer to this. Professor Dumbledore asked me to keep it a secret. Maybe you can ask Professor Dumbledore. 4. The little badger who planned to abide by the agreement honestly. The other little wizards had no way to deal with it, but there was no doubt that the problem of the Chamber of Secrets had been solved. The sudden extra house points of Hufflepuff could not be used by Professor Dumbledore to buy candy. Back to the dormitory, Adam was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief, but what followed was the eyes of the 4 roommates. How to describe that look? It was a bit complicated. It felt like the look Lindeau gave Giabeoiu, which made Adam's non-existent conscience feel a phantom pain. Okay, brothers, listen to my explanation first. Adam raised his hands in surrender under the gaze of the 4 people. The 5 people sat down on the small sofa together, and Adam told everyone what happened before. Although he promised Professor Dumbledore to keep it a secret, it was obvious that his roommates were not within the scope of the agreement, and they were all very tight-lipped people, unlike a gamekeeper who seemed to have grown up drinking truth serum. After telling the story, Adam emphasized again, "It's really not that I don't take you with me. There is nothing interesting this time, and the basilisk is so dangerous." "Well, your experience this time is indeed quite monotonous," Bernard sighed with some regret. The so-called secret room turned out to be a sewer, and there was a big snake in it that would kill anyone who stared at it. This was completely different from what he imagined. At least there should be various levels that need to be solved, and there should be huge golems or magical animals as guards. Right. After listening to Bernard's speech, Adam felt that if he had been born 100 years earlier, if he could have met a 5th grade transfer student, he might have been able to see what he wanted to see. So, what about the basilisk? Can we see it? Eugene was a little curious about what the legendary basilisk looked like. Adam thought for a while. "Wait until I dig out the eyes of the basilisk and show them to you." The basilisk that was going to be put into the pot had to be killed anyway, so why not let them see it? "Well, forget it. Isn't it a bit to dig out its eyes just to show us?" Cologne frowned and spoke, and then heard Adam say, "It's okay, it's going to be put into the pot anyway, then. Let's see it." Cologne immediately changed his words and swallowed his saliva. As for the basilisk's deadly poison, it doesn't matter, he believes Adam will solve it. If not, he still has chopsticks made of unicorn horns. He knew that he would use this thing one day. Christmas is approaching, so why not give everyone this kind of chopsticks as gifts this year? The gifts for everyone except Adam were solved in one go. Yeah, then they discussed the time to go to the Forbidden Forest. It has been delayed for so long. If we don't go now, it will be the next year. Why don't we go during the Christmas holiday? Uther suggested. We have to do homework during the weekdays, and it always feels a bit too rushed to squeeze in time to go on weekends. Although it is an adventure, they don't have any purpose. It's more like going to the Forbidden Forest for fun. If they have to think about going back to do homework quickly, it will be too disappointing. But entering the Forbidden Forest on a snowy day, won't it be unsafe? Eugene frowned. Even if we go tomorrow, it will snow. Everyone, it's already December. Bernard sighed. Eugene and Cologne, who had delayed the time of the Forbidden Forest appointment again and again due to personal reasons, were speechless. So the time to go to the Forbidden Forest was officially confirmed. "Don't worry, I am sure I can protect everyone's safety this time." Adam, who has practiced protective magic to the point where he can shield others, patted his chest and said the next day, the atmosphere of the entire Hogwarts changed quietly. The threat of the Chamber of Secrets was lifted, and the dark clouds that had been shrouding the castle suddenly dissipated. The little wizards suddenly regained their former liveliness. The few who were in a bad mood were probably the few Slytherin students who claimed to be pureblood and were proud of it before yesterday. They could still look at those mudbloods in a panic, and those half-blood wizards were also in a hurry. But everything changed today for this reason. They even launched a wave of boycotts of Adam's products, trying to make Adam, who caused all this, suffer heavy losses. But not many people responded. After all, even Slytherins are not all pure blood. On the contrary, after this news was spread by someone, those non-pure blood wizards who were originally afraid immediately ran to Adam's store to buy. On the one hand, to vent their emotions, because the previous fear did need the comfort of sweets, and by the way, they also expressed their support for Adam. The result was that Adam did not suffer heavy losses as the Slytherins had wished. But his turnover kept rising and he was almost making a lot of money. I probably know why so many businesses like to provoke confrontation. This is really making money. Unfortunately, I don't value money very much. Making money has become a problem for me now. After working from opening the store to closing it, Adam felt a little tired after closing the store. He sighed. Opening this store is really the thing I regret the most. I was happiest when I only used a shoulder bag to sell snacks. Unfortunately, I can't go back now. Cedric, who bought the last sweet osmanthus lotus root next to him, felt a toothache when he heard it. Forget it, Adam's candy will not cause tooth decay. It should be an illusion caused by too much defense against the dark arts class. He quickly drank a sip of honey tea to moisten it, at the strong request of his classmates. The honey tea, which was seriously oversweetened, was suppressed by the sweet osmanthus lotus root and was still able to burst out enough sweetness between the lips and teeth, soothing Cedric's frown. Adam, have you heard? What? Did you hear? After finishing the dining cart, Adam turned around and saw Cedric leaning next to him and whispering, Professor Lockhart said in today's class that he already knew where the Chamber of Secrets was and what the monster in the Chamber of Secrets was, and that you were able to solve the Chamber of Secrets monster thanks to his teaching. It seems that his injuries have healed completely. Adam narrowed his eyes. Normally, he didn't care much about rumors, but why was Lockhart so hated? It just so happened that after releasing the grudge for his roommates, Adam was considering whether to get into the movie business. If he did, how realistic should he make it so that it wouldn't be too extreme? Lockhart happened to bump into him, so let Professor Lockhart do the experiment. Oh no, just experience it. Why not start with the 8D Conjuring series joint version chapter 74 Second Journey to the Forbidden Forest. Studying life at Hogwarts passes quickly for most young wizards. With another heavy snowfall, Adam ushered in his second Christmas at Hogwarts. Students, calm down, with the experience of last year. This year the little wizards extended their claws to the various decorations on the table as soon as they stepped into the auditorium. Professor Dumbledore quickly stopped. I hope the table isn't too messy by the end of the dinner. Okay, no problem, Professor Dumbledore. The twins' answers could be heard even by Hufflepuff, but the next second they took away the vase in front of them. You, under Ron's stunned gaze, the two of them smiled brightly at him. Little Ronnie, let's finish the whole vase of flowers. Wouldn't it be a mess on the table? As they spoke, the two divided the bouquet of flowers and smashed the vase with metal spoons. The flowers are floral cloud cake, the branches are hazelnut-filled Pocky cookies, and the vase is sweet and light mint candy. Oh, by the way, we heard from Adam that this year's table is really edible. Yes, we can swear it in the name of Wizard Wheezes. Ron hesitated for a moment, but in the end he couldn't hold back his curiosity, and given the status of Wizard Wheezes in the hearts of Fred and George, they shouldn't lie. Ouch! After biting it on the corner of the table, Ron's eyes lit up. Although it cannot be chewed, the texture is obviously not wood, it is really edible. Harry looked at him and hesitated to speak. Ron was just thinking about the place of Wizard Wheezes in the hearts of the twins. Has he ever thought about what Wizard Wheezes does? After much effort, Ron finally bit off a corner of the table, chewed it with anticipation, and then his whole face slowly wrinkled. What is this? Ron stuck out his tongue, and the entire tongue was covered in a dark, sticky substance. 100% pure chocolate. We guarantee you it's edible. The twins looked at each other, with identical smiles on their faces, and high-fived. It's just that not everyone can accept the taste. Sometimes I'm really curious, how many kinds of delicacies are there in Adam's head? Cedric's mouth was stuffed full of strawberries, and his voice became muffled. What you should be curious about is how many kinds of food there are in the world. As Adam spoke, he reached out and grabbed a gingerbread man running past him and threw it into his mouth. It's brown sugar flavored in a warm atmosphere. More than half of the Christmas banquet passed. Cologne suddenly spoke. Hey, I just said something doesn't feel right. It turns out that Professor Lockhart is not here. Why mention him properly? Isn't it just right that he doesn't come? Bernard looked unhappy when he heard this name. I'm just curious. Generally speaking, this guy won't miss any opportunity to attract everyone's attention. Thought about it and felt that it was indeed unlucky, so he continued to turn his attention to the golden and crispy red bean pie in front of him. Lockhart. He is currently in love with new female fans such as Annabelle, Ghost Sister, and Corona. I don't think he will have time to dance during this holiday. The man who helped secure a normal Christmas holiday for everyone shrugged and hid his reputation on the second day of the banquet. Everyone slept in neatly. In the afternoon, some played wizard chess against a fireplace, some read books, and some practiced spells. After dinner, they gathered again in Adam's dormitory, with a goal, the Forbidden Forest. Adam, are you okay? I always feel this posture is a bit embarrassing. Under the supplementary light of the light sign, half squatting with one hand on the ground, spoke silently. I also, Uther leaned his body sideways, holding his elbow with one hand, and pointed the index finger of the other hand on his forehead in a contemplative manner, with half of his face in shadow. Oh, it'll be fine soon, come on. 3, 2, 1. As the flash came on, the poses of the 5 people were frozen on the film. Eugene put down his hand and took a deep breath, rubbing his cheek. I suddenly regretted it. It won't look embarrassing when it comes out in the end, right? Oh, how could that happen? Everyone is so handsome. Adam waved his hand and ran up to put away the camera. The camera with the tripod could be put away using the small compartment in the satchel under the magic of the small brand. I didn't take any photos last time I visited the Forbidden Forest, but this time the scenery is even better. I hope I won't encounter the Acromantula again this time. Bernard sighed. That kind of thing really ruins the adventure experience. Don't worry, I brought a secret weapon to deal with the Acromantula this time. Even if we encounter one, there will be no problem. Adam patted his satchel when he encountered the Acromantula again. He directly opened the jar and released a basilisk. The spider's 360-degree viewing angle and the eyeball structure that could not close its eyes destined the basilisk to defeat all spiders. After being prepared, the group of 5 people walked into the Forbidden Forest. The grass in front of you on the left is moving. There must be some animal that saw us approaching and ran away. Do you want to chase after it? Bernard raised the lantern and said excitedly, although the surrounding air is illuminated by small light balls emitted by Adam. Wouldn't holding a lantern make it more atmospheric? Such a movement should be just a rabbit, analyzed calmly, but then became a little uncertain. The young Uchi beast seems to be this big too. The moonlight tonight doesn't look like there will be a moon crazy beast coming out. Adam glanced at the waning moon above his head, but this is our first discovery. It doesn't hurt to chase after it and take a look. Finding traces of walking in the grass, the 5 of them walked forward and followed them to a small river. There is actually a river in the Forbidden Forest, Cologne first exclaimed, and then slapped himself on the face. Oh, okay, I was stupid. Such a large forest and the animals in it cannot rely solely on precipitation to support themselves. The bad news is that we probably lost the chase, but the good news is that we have a greater chance of finding magical animals by following the river. Uther walked to the river and squatted down, checking for possible footprints on the river. This should belong to a deer. What is this? Oof, a centaur, a unicorn, a hippogriff, are all possible. The footprints may not be very directional. Adam shrugged, suddenly reached out and grabbed Uther's shoulder and pulled him back. Be careful. Just as Uther left his position, a big green mouth emerged from the water. Thunderbolt. Explosion. Blood spread in the river, and Uther clutched his chest, his heart beating rapidly. That's a Grindylow. Although it was just a quick glance, Cologne still recognized the owner of that mouth. Grindylow is a small water monster with great strength but a very fragile body. It can usually only deal with unsuspecting muggles and very young wizards. The danger level is XX, the same level as Puffwrong. The danger is secondary. The main thing is that it's a bit scary to suddenly come out. Adam was also caught off guard and subconsciously stretched out his hand to pull. In fact, he could easily deal with a horse-shaped water monster. Even if he opened a shield and rushed out, it seems that he is still not used to the existence of magic in his subconscious. Chapter 75, Meeting in the Deep Forest. The Grindylow was just a small episode. As they walked downstream along the river, they discovered a lot more, not only ordinary animals such as deer and rabbits, but also 2 nests of the Moonchild beast. Those big eyes made Adam unable to help but be curious about the structure of the Moonchild beast's mind. But after stroking the soft fur of the moon crazy beast twice, Adam put this question, which was a bit scary and cruel to think about. Behind him, why, I just squatted and issued a complaint. Do I look scary? Of course this was a joke. Everyone in the dormitory was pretty good looking, but that didn't stop Cologne from feeling hurt inside. Maybe Adam is more in line with Uchimen's aesthetics, although Uther squatted down. Moonchimen would not run away directly, but after extending his hand towards Moonchimen, Uchimen would still stay away slightly to avoid being touched. Look at Adam, who is now being hugged and rubbed by the moon crazy beast. Tisk. His mind was spinning so slowly that he was still envious of Adam. The clever Eugene had already rubbed himself against Adam and received the hug of the Moonchild beast. It should be pretty safe here. The moon crazy beast, as well as the ordinary animals encountered before, can hardly resist the ferocious carnivores, let alone those powerful magical animals. Since they thrive here, it means that there are no predators nearby. Ouch, a sudden wail pierced the night sky, and Adam and others quickly stood up and looked in the direction of the sound. Ahem, no, it's okay. Bernard stood up holding his stomach. I was a little curious just now whether the pink moon crazy beast was male or female. I lifted up its tail to take a look, but got kicked. Not far from Bernard, a pink-haired moon crazy beast jumped on the spot and screamed so loudly, well, it should be called quite dirty. Adam who was learning snake language, subconsciously wrote down this piece of moon crazy beast language. It turns out that swearing is the fastest way to learn any language. You should be lucky that it wasn't a hippogriff, otherwise you would have dispersed by now, complained. No, if it were a hippogriff, I wouldn't look at it directly. Bernard has vindicated himself as a curious but not stupid man. We should go. We've been here long enough, Eugene said, and Bernard may not be too popular next. After bidding farewell to the moon crazy beasts, Adam and his friends seemed to have suddenly run out of luck. They didn't meet any animals for a long time. Everyone, look at this. Cologne reached out his hand on the tree trunk and pinched something sharply. When he saw it before everyone's eyes, he saw a few silver white hairs. This is unicorn hair. How did you see it? Bernard couldn't help but complain, and at the same time he couldn't help but feel a little excited. That's a unicorn. Although he had just received a pair of chopsticks made of unicorn horns, he had never seen a live unicorn. I also happened to see it by reflecting the light. It seems that there are unicorn activities nearby, and this luster, the unicorn has not gone far yet. Took a closer look at the unicorn hair in his hand. Unicorns are diurnal animals. Night is when they sleep. This unicorn must have noticed our movements before getting up and escaping, and even bumped into a tree. Doesn't that mean you haven't run far yet? Bernard was a little excited. We can try to catch up. What's the use of chasing a unicorn? Eugene patted Bernard on the shoulder. Unicorns only accept the approach of virgins, and some of us are not even women. Then we can at least take a look at it from a distance. I haven't seen a live unicorn yet. Bernard was a little unwilling to miss out on the unicorn. Then let's go and have a look. We don't intend to harm the unicorn. We just want to take a look. Adam is also very curious about unicorns, so the five of them followed the traces left by the unicorn and chased after them. Judging from the traces, the unicorn is not far ahead. Huh? Cologne suddenly frowned. Did you hear anything? There seems to be. It's the sound of horse hooves. Uther was still distinguishing, but Eugene had already given the answer. He frowned and said, did that unicorn find the tribe? It's true that unicorns are social animals, but with the character of unicorns, it doesn't matter if they happen to attack a wizard on the way. But isn't it a bit strange to take the initiative to attack the enemy? The sound of horse hooves was getting closer and closer, and the other party came to the door. The five of them just stood there and waited, but each of them clenched their wands and prepared for it. Although they look holy and beautiful, and they are vegetarians, unicorns are not weak at all in combat, and they live in groups. There are almost no magical animals in nature that can feed on unicorns. However, when they actually saw the approaching target, the five of them were surprised and disappointed that it was not a unicorn, but a group of centaurs, about 20 horses? Only individual. A horseman is a human from the waist up, and a horse from the waist down. The color of the human-shaped hair is the same as the horse-shaped hair. Like mermaids, they have the same intelligence as humans but voluntarily belong to beasts. They like to be close to nature and observe the stars. Eugene explained to them in a low voice, no wonder there are so many herbivores living in this area. It's the centaurs who are protecting them. Is this the poacher you mentioned? The centaurs, each carrying a bow and arrow, formed a circle around the five people. The leader frowned and looked at his companions beside him. I only saw a group of foals who had just learned to walk. After that, the centaur stepped in front of the five people. Human cubs, you have crossed the line. This is our territory. Your territory? If I remember correctly, the dark forest belongs to Hogwarts, although the students were not allowed to enter. Just like those abandoned rooms, the dark forest still belonged to Hogwarts. Uther did not give in. He looked up at the centaur who was half a body taller than him, and the centaur who was walking forward had no intention of stopping and was about to step on Uther. The hoof was already raised in the air. As long as it fell, it would kick Uther over, but Uther still did not step back. The leading centaur narrowed his eyes and did not step down. This is not the place for you to come. Go back early. The hoof brushed Uther's body and fell, and the centaur led the other centaur away in a sound of horse hooves. Wow! Uther, you are so amazing. You didn't lose to him in momentum just now. Seeing the centaurs go away, Cologne breathed a sigh of relief, and then rushed to Uther excitedly and hugged his shoulders. I read in the book that centaurs will not attack children. Uther smiled slightly, and if he had continued to move forward just now, I would never regret it. Although he said so, he was still nervous. And there was sweat in his palms now. Adam nodded secretly. No matter what Uther prepared, his protective magic could protect Uther, and even if they didn't do it, the centaur's end would not be good. You have to know that wizards generally look down on magical creatures. As long as the wizards can survive and report the magical creatures that actively attack wizards, they can basically say goodbye to this world, not to mention that Uther's father is the Minister of Magic of Egypt. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.